What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 15 et. Chapter 470 Find Out. Advertisement. After saying this, Monk was eager to enter the space wormhole to find out. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also smiled instantly. And just when Monk and the Venerable Soul were fully prepared to step into the space wormhole, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the two of them, blocking their way. At this moment, Dianguang also said to the two puzzled faces in front of him. You two, it is too dangerous for you to enter the space wormhole. If you break in, you will probably lose your bones. Quote. After he couldn't finish this sentence, he also looked at the two excitedly. It seems that there is really something extremely dangerous here. Hearing the words of King Beniao, Meng Ke also slowly restrained the shocked expression on his face. Facing the Beniao king in front of him with a serious face, he asked. Before blocking us from entering the space wormhole, should you declare your family name first? Otherwise, the two of us would not believe you. Quote. After finishing this sentence, Monk waited for Ben Bird King's answer. Advertisement. Venerable Shenhun was also waiting for Beniawang's explanation. Hearing Monk's inquiry, Beniawang hurriedly calmed down. He was so anxious just now that he was a little excited when he spoke. Afterwards, he calmly spoke to Monk and Venerable Soul. You can call me Ben Bird King, my friend also suffered from the space wormhole and died there. So I don't want to put anyone else at risk here. I was taking a nap today. I thought no one would come here, but unexpectedly, I saw the two of you wanting to walk into the space wormhole. It was also a shock to me. That's why I ran out quickly to stop the two of you. Quote. After hearing what Beniawang said, Venerable Shensol also raised his eyebrows, and asked Beniawang. You said, you have been staying here. Beniawang also nodded slightly when he heard the words. Upon seeing this, Venerable Soul also asked King Beniao again. Advertisement. Since this is the case, then in the past, many people suddenly fell into the space wormhole. And even many houses here have entered the space wormhole. Where were you at that time? Why don't you stop it? After finishing this sentence, he waited for Ben Bird King's explanation. Beniawang also let out a long sigh when he heard the words, with an extremely sad expression on his face. After seeing Ben Bird King's expression, Monk and Venerable Soul were even more confused. Such a weird guy suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. Even a witty monk like Monk can't figure out what's going on with Ben Bird King. After pondering for a moment, Beniao King answered to Monk and Venerable Soul. At that time, when the space wormhole was running autonomously, I couldn't make a move at all. Once I help those common people, I will also be taken into the space wormhole. In that case, I will die without a burial. Between other people's lives and mine, I put my life on the line. So you two must not blame me. Quote. After hearing what Beniawang said, Monk nodded slightly, and said to Beniawang. Advertisement. Chapter 471 Space Wormhole. Advertisement. Okay, let's talk about the situation of this space wormhole next. The two of us don't know much about space wormholes. Can you tell us how this space wormhole is formed? And how to get rid of it? Hearing Monk's inquiry, Beniawang also showed a smile. Because he feels that Monk is quite kind. After he considered his words, he spoke to Monk. The specific appearance of space wormholes can be traced back to 2 years ago. It had already appeared here 2 years ago, and it was slowly running. At that time, it had an extremely thin space barrier with this world. Therefore, the role of space wormholes has not been manifested in this world. Quote. But with the space barrier between this event and the space wormhole, it slowly disappeared. The space wormhole is officially in this world, exerting its destructive power. Quote. Hearing Ben Bird King's words, Monk and Venerable Soul also looked at each other. You can see the shocked expression on each other's faces. After being silent for a while, Monk asked again to the Beniao King. Advertisement. That being the case, how do we eliminate space wormholes? If it is kept in existence, it is likely to cause many impacts. It's better to kill it with a quick knife, it's better than you keep here all the time. Hearing what Monk said, Beniawang also shook his head. Then he didn't wait for Monk to ask more. So he told Monk and Venerable Soul what he knew. Hearing everything about King Beniao, he told the two of them. The eyes of Monk and Venerable Soul also widened instantly. They also never thought that space wormholes are unsolvable. If you want to remove it, you must enter the space wormhole. The space connected by the space wormhole is unstable, and it is unknown where the world it reaches is. If it is to preserve life, it will not enter the space wormhole. But when they hold this idea and enter the space wormhole, they will disappear or die inexplicably. Afterwards, Face said to Monk with a serious face. The two of us can go to the space wormhole for a while. Advertisement. You are afraid of danger, but the two of us are not afraid of danger. You must not hold this kind of thinking will lead you into an extremely dangerous situation. Hearing what the other party said, Monk also became curious, and asked the Beniao King a few questions in doubt. This space wormhole seems to have its own thinking. Quote. 0 for flowers. Hearing what Monk said, Beniawang also shook his head. If that's the case, then why are you stopping us? Maybe the two of us are lucky enough to solve the problem of space wormholes. Quote. If you don't enter the space wormhole, there is no way to erase the space wormhole. Then he answered to Monk. In the past, the powerhouses in other worlds also had the same idea as you. After hearing what the other party said, Monk also said helplessly to the Beniao king. It knows who is harmful to him, so he will use his ability to clear those outsiders. After hearing Monk's question, Dianguang thought about his words. Want to hear why the other party said that? Advertisement. Chapter 472 inexplicably disappeared. Advertisement. If you enter the space wormhole with this idea, the space wormhole will also attack you. Then you will disappear inexplicably. Quote. After hearing what the other party said, Monk was also silent for a long time. Seeing that Monk and Venerable Soul have given up the idea of entering the space wormhole, Dianguang also heaved a sigh of relief. But at this moment, Dianguang unexpectedly felt a suction force coming from behind. 353. By the time he wanted to react, it was already too late. His whole body entered the space wormhole at once. Before disappearing, he only had time to seek help from Monk and Venerable Soul. By the time Monk and Venerable Soul were about to rescue him, he had already disappeared. Seeing the space wormhole that was still rotating peacefully there, Monk and Venerable Soul also looked at each other. At this time, Monk also felt extremely helpless. He originally thought that this space wormhole was just an inexplicable trouble. As long as it is resolved, nothing will happen next. Advertisement. But unexpectedly, after Dianguang said, he actually discovered that this is not a trouble, it is clearly a disaster. Seeing Monk lost in thought, Venerable Soul also spoke to Monk. What should we do next? Since we can't enter the space wormhole, should we leave here? After saying this, he waited for Monk to make a decision. Monk also shook his head helplessly after hearing the words of Venerable Soul, and thought about his words. Then he spoke to the Venerable Soul. You can't just leave so hastily, no matter how you say it, you should save Ben Bird King. Ben Bird King stopped us. And he also told us all about the space wormhole from the bottom of his heart. It would be a little bad if he just refused to save him. Quote. Hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also felt that Monk's head was a little bit funny. Then he began to urge Monk, asking Monk to talk about why he was so confident. After deliberating his words, he answered to Venerable Shenhun. And if I have the heart to investigate him, I can definitely set a tracking mark on that person. Advertisement. After hearing these words of Venerable Soul, he first grinned. Could it be that Monk is unprepared? How could it be possible to save Ben Bird King who has been sucked into the space wormhole? But how could Monk back down? To tell you the truth, I have learned a secret technique before. If we enter the space wormhole, I have no way to guarantee our own safety. But if you want to get a person out of the space wormhole, it's a piece of cake. There is no way for myself and others to enter the space wormhole. Then he said to Venerable Soul with an indifferent face. The main purpose is to let Monk get out of trouble. Afterwards, Venerable Divine Soul reluctantly told Monk all the thoughts in his heart. Hearing what Monk said, Venerable Shenhun couldn't help being shocked. Monk also grinned 3.1 upon hearing Venerable Soul's inquiry. This secret technique can ensure that I can always grasp the location of the people I have come into contact with. Advertisement. Chapter 473 The cultivation system is different. Advertisement. Leaving that mark can guarantee that I can summon it, and can also guarantee that I can teleport to the other side through the secret technique. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul was shocked immediately. Then he asked Monk, Monk, where did you learn this secret technique? Can you tell me about it? I also want to learn about such mysteries. Quote. Hearing these words of Venerable Soul, Monk also waved his hands. Then he spoke to the Venerable Soul. You don't have to think about it there, your cultivation system is different from mine. If you practice rashly, the secret technique I recommend to you may hinder your development. So, you still don't think about those useless 10, just concentrate on learning your spells. Quote. After finishing these words, he patted Venerable Soul on the shoulder. Then he spoke again to Venerable Soul. Next, I need you to go back and prepare some materials for me. Without these materials, my occult techniques would not be successful. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Venerable Soul also heaved a sigh of relief. Advertisement. He wasn't relieved that Monk was able to save Ben Bird King. It's because Monk's secret technique has some limitations. If there is no material, there is no way to perform the secret technique. That way, the gap between him and Monk can be narrowed. After Monk sent Venerable Soul away, he sneered. He could tell from the expression of Venerable Soul just now that Venerable Soul had his own unique ideas. I deliberately said that my secret technique has some limitations. The other party actually felt relieved and breathed a sigh of relief, which made Monk even more suspicious of him. But as long as the Divine Soul Venerable hasn't turned against him, there is no need for Monk to take the lead. Afterwards, Monk began to use the secret technique to communicate with Ben Bird King. Ben Bird King sighed in the space wormhole. He felt that his life was over. I really didn't expect that I was kind enough to help others, but in the end I couldn't escape. This is really a bit too unpredictable. And just when he was about to die, he heard Monk's voice. Advertisement. Ben Bird King, can you hear what I say? After hearing Monk's voice, King Beniao hurriedly looked around. But there is only darkness all around, how can there be any figure? This made him extremely curious. Afterwards, he hurriedly asked Monk. Monk, where the hell are you? Why didn't I notice your existence? Did you also follow me into the space wormhole? After saying this, he waited for Monk's answer. Monk also sighed helplessly after hearing the inquiry from 193 Ben Bird King, and said to Ben Bird King seriously. Ben Bird King, don't ask questions there. Then you just listen to me honestly. If you want to come out of the space wormhole alive, then you have to listen to my arrangement. If you don't listen to my arrangement, then you can stay in the space wormhole. Hearing what Monk said, Dianguang hurriedly said to Monk. Don't worry, I will absolutely obey your arrangement. In this way, he was obediently obeying Monk's arrangement. Advertisement. Chapter 474 Breaking Away from the Space Wormhole. Advertisement. Soon after, King Beniao also escaped from the space wormhole. Seeing the King Beniao appeared, Monk also breathed a sigh of relief. After Dianguang escaped from the space wormhole, he began to look left and right, greedily absorbing the fresh air from the outside world. In his view, he was alive again. When he saw Monk, he quickly came to Monk. After bowing to Monk, he looked at Monk with gratitude. Monk waved his hand when he saw the excited expression of Dianguang. Then he spoke to Ben Bird King. Ben Bird King, then you hide first, and you will come out when I send you a message. Hearing what Monk said, Dianguang was also full of doubts. But it didn't go against Monk's wishes, and immediately used his ability to disappear in place. And not long after the Beniao King hid, the Divine Soul Venerable returned to Monk in a hurry. Then he put a cloth bag in front of Monk, and said to Monk. I have prepared all the materials according to your arrangement. Advertisement. Next, hurry up and save Ben Bird King. Quote. After hearing what the other party said, Monk also nodded slightly. Then all the materials in the cloth bag were poured on the ground. After pretending to wave his arms twice, he put all the materials into his bag. And just after the things were accepted by Monk, Monk shouted loudly. After receiving the signal from Monk, Ben Bird King quickly escaped from the invisible state. After seeing Ben Bird King coming out from there, Venerable Shenhun's pupils also contracted slightly. He felt that he had underestimated Monk's occult skills too. Even with some materials, the speed of summoning is really too fast. To be able to summon the Beniao King back so quickly is really unexpected. Monk also heaved a long sigh at this time, and then spoke to Ben Bird King and Venerable Soul. Okay, now that the matter has been dealt with, let's go back to our respective homes. After saying this, I decided to get ready to go. But at this moment, the Ben Bird King stood in front of Monk. Advertisement. When Monk saw Beniao King suddenly appear in front of him, he was also a little puzzled. Afterwards, Monk asked the Beniao King in confusion. Why are you suddenly blocking my way? After hearing Monk's question, King Beniao grinned at Monk. After deliberating his words, he spoke to Monk. You saved me, of course I have to repay you, so I am ready to rely on you. Monk nodded in satisfaction when he heard the words. In his opinion, no Bird King is a person who knows how to repay kindness. But Ben Bird King's next sentence also made Monk very helpless. At this moment, Dianguang also spoke to Monk. Although I want to take refuge in you, I also followed a rule before. That is, I must submit to those who are stronger than me. If you are weaker than me, you are not qualified to persuade me. So I am going to give you a lesson to see how your strength is. If the strength is strong, then I can surrender. Advertisement. 470th chapters ready to learn. Advertisement. If you are weak and pathetic, then sorry. I can only thank you in other ways in the future. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at Monk seriously. After hearing what Ben Bird King said, Monk also felt that this guy was following the rules too much. Rules are dead, people are alive, don't you know how to adapt? But seeing the determined expression on the other party's face, Monk can also know. No matter what he said, Ben Bird King would never listen to persuasion. Afterwards, Monk spoke softly to Ben Bird King. Well then, since you are willing to discuss, let me discuss with you. But it's not today's discussion, I want to go back and have a good rest. In order to rescue you from 640, I also expended a lot of energy. If you compete with me at this time, it will be a bit unfair. Quote. Hearing Monk's words, Dianguang also spoke to Monk after pondering for a moment. Well, since that's the case, I'll give you 2 days. We'll come back to compete in 2 days. Quote. Advertisement. Hearing this, Monk also reached out his hand towards Venerable Soul to signal him. Then he prepared to leave with Venerable Soul. But not long after the two left, Venerable Shensoul spoke softly to Monk. Monk, have you ever thought about bringing Ben Bird King to the Ghost Gate Gang? Since he is ready to compete with you in the future, do you think you will lose? Monk also shook his head when he heard the words, and then he opened his mouth to answer. I don't think I'm going to fail. When Venerable Shenhun heard what Monk said, he also slapped his thigh suddenly. Then he spoke to Monk. Then it's over. Since you think you have a sure chance of winning, why don't you bring Dianguang back to the Ghost Gate Gang at this time? Anyway, sooner or later he will surrender to you. What is the difference between bringing him back early and taking him back late? And at this time, he can also get in touch with members of our Ghost Gang earlier. Seeing the other party's nervous look, Monk said helplessly to Ben Bird King. Don't be afraid, I'm not going to hurt you. Advertisement. After saying this, the monks looked at Ben Bird King seriously, waiting for Ben Bird King's answer. At that time, we will be able to compete directly on the playing field of the Ghost Gate Gang. Quote. In the past 2 days, there is no place to live here, so if we just eat and sleep in the open. Dianguang was still meditating cross-legged, but when he suddenly saw Monk coming back, he also hurriedly stood up. So I am going to let you go back to the Ghost Gate gang with me, and have a good rest together. He was also very happy to hear that Monk asked him to go to the Ghost Gate gang. After hearing Monk's words, Dianguang didn't hesitate at all. After hearing Venerable Shenhun's many words, Meng Ke also thought for a while, then nodded. At that time, I will maintain a state of complete victory, but you will be exhausted. In that case, I will not be able to win by force. In fact, he doesn't want to live here. But because he has no place to live, he can only stay here. Your physical strength will definitely be exhausted. My idea of coming here is to invite you to my Ghost Gate gang. Then make them less alien. Quote. Then he quickly returned to the front of Ben Bird King. Advertisement. Chapter 476. He will definitely not wrong himself. Advertisement. Although he doesn't know where the Ghost Gate gang is, he knows that Monk will definitely not wrong him. Then he followed Monk to the Ghost Gate gang, and his living conditions would definitely be better. Just like that, the three of them rushed towards the Ghost Gate gang together. After returning to the Ghost Gate gang, Monk arranged for manpower to arrange the residence of Ben Bird King. Dianguang also took a rest among the Ghost gang. After seeing the arrival of the Dianguang King, everyone in the Ghost Gate gang was extremely puzzled. They didn't know who Ben Bird King was and why he came back with their chief. But even though they were extremely curious, they didn't ask him politely, but waited for Monk's announcement. If there are new members joining the Gimin gang, Monk will announce it as soon as possible. Since Monk didn't announce it, it also shows that this Dianguang is not yet an official member of the Gimin gang. After being curious for a while, many members of the Ghost gang stopped paying attention to Dianguang. After waiting for 2 days, Ben Bird King took the initiative to find Monk. Monk also smiled at Ben Bird King after seeing Ben Bird King coming. Then he asked Ben Bird King, "How about it, are you ready to compete with me?" Advertisement. After saying this, Monk Fu looked at Bird King with a half smile. Ben Bird King nodded heavily after hearing Monk's question, and then answered to Monk. Yes, I have replenished my physical strength. And I am very energetic now. In my opinion, this time is the best time for me to compete with you. Hope you don't put off time. Quote. After saying this, he looked at Monk with burning eyes, waiting for Monk to compete with him. After hearing what Ben Bird King said, Monk also laughed out loud twice. After he finished laughing, he spoke to Ben Bird King. Okay, since you're ready, there's no reason for me to procrastinate any longer. Next, you and I will go to the competition venue of my ghost gang. It is a place where people with conflicts learn from each other. Quote. I saw Venerable Shenhun with a smile on his face. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In normal times, Venerable Shenhun has a serious face. Advertisement. And just when the two were about to fight, the Venerable Soul also came to the side of the two. Zero looking for flowers. Monk was also extremely helpless, and then he spoke to Venerable Soul. Only when the Venerable Soul has a crooked mind, the Venerable Soul laughs like that. Hearing Monk's urging, King Benyao hurriedly nodded, and then stood opposite Monk. Oh. Seeing that Ben Bird King was in a daze, Monk patted Ben Bird King on the shoulder and said to Ben Bird King. Looking at the empty venue, Dianguang couldn't help but admire the thoughtful design here. After this sentence was finished, Monk waited for Venerable Shenhun to speak about his ghostly idea. After saying these words, Monk stood up from the chair, and walked towards the so-called playing field. Why are you in a daze there? Hurry up and get ready. And Ben Bird King hurriedly followed behind Monk. Honorable Soul, you don't have to put on a show there, hurry up and say what you really think. Soon, the two of them also came to the venue of the Ghost Gate Gang's competition. Don't wait any longer. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 477 No problem. Advertisement. So there is nothing wrong with Monk telling the Venerable Soul like this. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also hurriedly spoke to Monk. My idea is that since the two of you are planning to compete here, you should also find a referee. Without the help of the referee here, it would be meaningless for the two of you to compete. Quote. Monk also raised his eyebrows when he heard the words, and said helplessly to the 250 Spirit Venerable. No, you don't want to be the referee, do you? Venerable Shensoul didn't speak when he heard the words, but Monk could understand what the other party meant. Afterwards, Monk waved his hands weakly at Venerable Soul, letting him toss around casually. In just a short time, Venerable Shensoul actually summoned all the members of the Gimin gang together. Seeing those ghost gang members, the corner of Monk's mouth twitched fiercely. He also never thought that Venerable Soul could be so capable. What was supposed to be a quiet discussion has now turned into a competition. This made both of them feel very uncomfortable. Monk also cast a very embarrassed look at Ben Bird King. Advertisement. After noticing Monk's expression, Dianguang also shook his head, and said to Monk. You don't have to mind, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't matter if there are many people, as long as you don't play tricks after you fail. Quote. After hearing what Dianguang said, Monk restrained his smile, and said to Dianguang with a serious face. If I win, you have to say that you will join me here in front of so many people. And can't delay time. If you can do this, then our discussion can continue. If you can't guarantee it, then you can leave, and I don't need to delay any time with you. Quote. Monk doesn't do things that don't yield anything. If he won the victory with all his efforts, but the Beniao king refused to submit to the death, wouldn't Monk's work be in vain? In the end, maybe he will become an enemy with Ben Bird King. Then he spoke to Ben Bird King. Since you have agreed, then there is no need for us to go on and on, let's hurry up and learn from each other. I saw that Beniao king began to circle around Monk, constantly turning in circles. Advertisement. Don't worry, as long as I lose, I will surrender to you immediately. After hearing Monk's words, Beniao hurriedly shook his head and patted his chest. 0. The sparring begins. Beniao also agrees with Monk's words very much. Hearing the words of Venerable Soul, Monk and Bird King also acted quickly. He would never do such an extremely despicable thing. Then he spoke forcefully to Monk. If that's the case, Monk would rather not compete. Don't worry, Ben Bird King, am a man who keeps his word. For other matters, just wait until the discussion is over before discussing it. Quote. Hearing Ben Bird King's assurance, Monk nodded in satisfaction. We will never violate our agreement. Quote. Seeing that Monk and Ben Bird King were ready, Venerable Shenhun also spoke loudly. Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows after seeing Ben Bird King make such an action. Just like that, the two also set up a 1.3 fighting posture, looking at each other. Advertisement. 470th 8 chapters hidden. Advertisement. He didn't expect that this guy, Dianguang, really hides his secrets. The speed was so fast that he couldn't even react. But after Monk adjusted his state, he was sure to defeat Ben Bird King. Ben Bird King saw Monk looking around, looking for his trail. He also thought he was sure of winning. Then he grinned. But at this moment, Monk's palm also stretched out suddenly, grabbing the arm of King Beniao. Then the Beniao king was thrown out at once. When Ben Bird King was flying in the air, he was also taken aback for a moment. But he also reacted quickly. After turning his body over, he landed firmly on the ground. Ten raised his head and looked at Monk in shock. Then he asked Monk, did you just catch me when a blind cat ran into a dead mouse, or did you see my trajectory clearly? After saying this, Beniao waited for Monk's answer. Advertisement. He was really curious about the question just now. Hearing Ben Bird King's question, Monk also grinned, and then said to Ben Bird King. When I do things, I pay attention to a safe one, and I will never gamble on luck. And my luck is not too good, so I can't tolerate poisoning. Quote. After listening to these words, I believe you should understand the specific situation. After hearing Monk's response, King Beniao nodded slightly. What Monk said just now is very clear, he has made it clear that he will not do things that he is not sure about. So this shows that Monk did rely on his true strength to throw it out just now. After figuring this out, King Beniao stood there frowning and froze. Seeing Beniao staring blankly there, Monk couldn't help but frown, and asked Beniao suspiciously. Ben Bird King, what are you going to do? Didn't you say you want to contact me? Why are you stopping now? After saying this, Monk also looked at Ben Bird King suspiciously, not knowing what monster Ben Bird King was going to play. After hearing Monk's words, King Beniao raised his head helplessly and showed a bitter smile. Advertisement. Then, he said helplessly to Monk. The thing I'm most proud of is speed. But it doesn't work at all in front of you, and you can easily detect my direction of travel. This shows that your speed is much faster than mine. You are better than me even in what I am best at, how can I beat you, so I admit defeat. After hearing Ben Bird King's words, Monk nodded in satisfaction. 707 then spoke to King Beniao. Since that's the case, then you will fulfill your promise. After listening to Monk's words, King Beniao nodded slightly. The promise of the two is of course a surrender to Monk. Now he has also lost, so there is no need to continue to drag the time. Just like that, Beniao also bowed towards Monk in a very free and easy manner. In front of everyone, he spoke loudly to Monk. I, King Beniao, decided to surrender to you today. Hearing Beniao words, Venerable Shensol and the powerful members of the Ghost Gate Gang all cheered. Advertisement. Chapter 479 Congratulations Monk. Advertisement. Congratulations to Monk there. Monk nodded in satisfaction after hearing Ben Bird King's words. Walking forward, he patted Ben Bird King on the shoulder. Then he spoke to Ben Bird King. Next, as long as you work hard for me, I will never treat you badly. But this is under the premise that you work hard for me. If you think of Yao Mozi and plan to have ill intentions against me and want to kill me, then I don't need to save your life anymore. Quote. After saying this, Monk looked at Ben Bird King with a cold face. Ben Bird King also hurriedly assured Monk that he would never do that. Hearing Ben Bird King's assurance, Monk also showed a bright smile. Then he spoke to Ben Bird King. Don't panic, I didn't mean anything malicious just now, I just want to tell you what I want to say in advance. It is better to say those bad words beforehand than later. To prevent trouble, in hindsight. Quote. After finishing this sentence, Monk gave Beniao a few words, so that Beniao could go to rest. Advertisement. And Monk himself went back to his residence alone. After he returned to his residence, he did not rest immediately, but started training. He is going to improve his strength through training. And it is guaranteed to be able to win in the next confrontation with the strong. Ben Bird King also obeyed Monk's arrangement and went back to his residence to rest. But that night he couldn't sleep. He felt that it was inappropriate for him to surrender to Monk like this. When other people take refuge in the strong, they will bring some gifts to the strong. But he didn't have anything to offer at all, so he felt a little ashamed of Monk. By the next day, he was also going to reveal the news he knew to Monk. This makes Monk stronger. After making up his mind, Monk found Monk in a hurry. After he knocked on Monk's door, he gently opened the door and entered the room. After saying this, Monk looked at Ben Bird King with burning eyes. Then he asked Ben Bird King about suffering. Advertisement. After hearing what the other party said, Monk also smiled. Quote. Backquote Master Monk, I also thought a lot about it before. Just near the space wormhole, there is a secret realm. What news? It's worth your early morning trip. Is this news so important? And look at your Qian Hao, heavy dark circles, it means that you didn't sleep well last night. After deliberating his words, King Beniao spoke to Monk. I feel that something should be given to you as a token of trust in you. So I thought about it, and prepared to tell you the news I know. Quote. After hearing the knock on the door, Monk looked up, and then saw the bird master walking in. Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows, and asked the black water ghost in doubt. After finishing this sentence, Monk waited for Ben Bird King's answer. After deliberating his words, King Beniao spoke to Monk. What's matter? Tell me quickly, I am also very curious. Quote. If you want to improve your strength, you can enter the secret realm. Advertisement. Chapter 480 Strange Secret Realm. Advertisement. There are many monsters in the secret realm, and those monsters are all born from a fruit tree in the secret realm. As long as the fruit tree is not on fire, that secret realm will always exist. And there can be your training ground. Quote. After hearing what the other party said, Monk also nodded slightly. Then he stood up and walked outside. Seeing Monk's plain face, Tien Bird King thought that Monk didn't take this matter to heart. But after Monk walked out the door, he came back again. Then, with the shocked expression on Beniawang's face, he urged Beniawang to lead the way. After the corner of Ben Bird King's mouth twitched, he began to lead the way. Soon, the two arrived at the secret place that King Beniao had mentioned. After arriving at the 353 secret realm, Monk is also gearing up to go in and display his full strength. Beniao Wang also slowly opened the space door of the secret realm ahead. Seeing this, Monk entered the secret realm with a whoosh. Then he searched left and right to find those monsters. Advertisement. But after searching for a while, Monk still didn't find any trace of the monster. Then Monk turned his head and asked the Beniao King suspiciously. Ben Bird King, why didn't I see those monsters? Is this something only you can see? Badge. After finishing this sentence, he waited for Ben Bird King's answer. After hearing Monk's words, Beniao King shook his head hurriedly, and then replied to Monk. You were mistaken, I am not the only one who can see those monsters. It's because those monsters are sleeping right now. If you want to wake up those monsters, you must enter the depths of the secret realm and pry the fruit tree deep in the secret realm. As long as the fruit tree can be awakened, the monsters that have turned into fruits on the branches of the fruit tree will fall to the ground. Then attack the intruders. Quote. After hearing Beniao King's explanation, Monk nodded lightly, and then spoke to Beniaoju. Then if this is the case, what are we waiting for? Let's go. Hearing Monk's urging, Beniao Wang quickly led the way ahead. Advertisement. Soon, the two came to the front of the fruit tree that King Beniao had mentioned. Seeing the tall fruit trees that can cover the sky and the sun, Monk also walked forward excitedly. Then he punched down on the trunk of the fruit tree. The fruit tree was shaken again and again by Monk's punch. The fruits hanging on the branches of the fruit trees also began to shake, making an abnormal hissing sound. Seeing those monsters start to roar, Ben Bird King hurriedly pulled Monk back for a long distance. Then he spoke to Monk worriedly. Master Monk, you better be careful, this thing is very brittle and thick. To deal with these monsters, we can only clear them little by little. It's not possible to provoke so many at once. Are you sure you can wipe out all these monsters? Looking at the monsters in front of them that had just landed and turned into their own bodies. The corner of Ben Bird King's mouth couldn't help twitching. Seeing those disgusting monsters in front of him, Monk frowned and replied to Ben Bird King. Just keep your heart in your stomach, these monsters are very weak, I'm sure I can easily get rid of them. Advertisement. Chapter 481 Absolutely there will be no mistakes. Advertisement. Absolutely nothing can go wrong. If you think there is danger here, then you should leave first, and let me handle it first. It won't be too late for me to call you over after I finish dealing with the problems here. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Beniao Wang also nodded. He hurriedly retreated to the exit of the secret realm, waiting for the return of Monk. Monk watched Ben Bird King leave, and slowly turned his head to look at the monsters that were rushing towards him. Monk also showed a sneer at this time, and then his hands instantly turned into dragon claws. Flames began to attach to the dragon claws. After these flames were formed, they burned the void, somewhat distorted. Those monsters, as if they couldn't feel Monk's powerful strength at all, kept roaring there. And always wanted to rush forward and kill Zhang Meng. Monk didn't hesitate anymore at this moment, and quickly swung his dragon claws to wipe out all the monsters in front of him. These monsters also suffered heavy casualties under Monk's repeated attacks. But somehow, Monk felt that these monsters were killing more and more. Advertisement. After Monk raised his head and looked at the big tree carefully. It was also discovered that when he killed those monsters by himself, the branches of that big tree actually bore many fruits again. After realizing the specific situation, Monk almost couldn't bear to destroy the big tree. But after thinking about it, I realized that I came here to practice my fighting skills, not to destroy the big tree. If he destroys the big tree by himself, then the monsters here will disappear. In that case, I would have lost a good place to train. In this way, Monk also resisted the idea of destroying the big tree, and started to attack those monsters. Monk fought those monsters for 3 hours straight. Within 3 hours, Monk's pressure continued to skyrocket. Because those monsters are killing more and more, and these monsters seem to be the power that can devour their companions. When one monster dies, the strength of another monster can be increased a little. But in the face of this situation, Monk was not discouraged at all, and even became more excited. Because he felt that his fighting instinct was growing like a rocket. Advertisement. Zero looking for flowers. But just when Monk was about to fully fire, he discovered that those monsters retreated one by one. This made Monk a little puzzled, not knowing what was going on. And just when Monk was full of doubts, Ben Bird King also walked to Monk's side. After Monk saw the arrival of the Ben Bird King, he hurriedly asked the Ben Bird King. It just so happens that you are here, please tell me quickly, what is going on here? I haven't played to my heart's content, why did they retreat? Are these monsters afraid? After saying this, Monk looked at Ben Bird King suspiciously, waiting for Ben Bird King's answer. After hearing Monk's question, King Beniao thought for a while. Then he replied to Monk. Master Monk, if my guess is correct, the time for these monsters to come out and move should be over. According to statistics, the action time of these monsters is limited. They cannot leave the fruit tree for a long time, and must return to the fruit tree to replenish their strength within a certain period of time. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 482. This fruit tree is quite interesting. Advertisement. After hearing what Dianguang said, Monk couldn't help but look at the fruit tree in front of him in shock. I have to say that this fruit tree is quite interesting, and it has such an ability. Afterwards, Monk stretched his waist and said to the Beniao King. Okay, there's nothing else to do next, I don't need your help here. You can go back to the ghost gang now. I want to stay here for a while longer, and I want to improve my strength a bit before going back. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Dianguang also nodded, then turned and left here without any explanation. After leaving the secret realm, he quickly rushed towards the Ghost Gate gang. Seeing the Beniao King leave, Monk didn't hesitate any longer, and walked out of the secret realm without hesitation. Then I collected some materials outside the secret realm, built a simple hut, and lived here. After 5 days in a row, Monk's strength has also been greatly improved. At this time, Monk is still full of power. A little movement of the body can make people feel the terrifying strength of Monk. When Monk returned to the Ghost Gate gang, both the Divine Soul Venerable and Ben Bird King were very shocked. Advertisement. In the past, they could still feel the strength of Monk. But at this time they can only feel that Monk is full of power, but they can't detect Monk's strength at all. After noticing the shocked gazes of the two, Monk smiled and said to the two. You don't need to investigate anymore, my strength is a big stage higher than yours. So you can't find out my true strength. When will you raise your strength to my level? Then I can clearly recognize my strength. Quote. After saying this, Monk laughed out loud. After he finished laughing, he patted the shoulders of the two of them. Afterwards, the two can watch their own affairs, there is no need to guard here. Venerable Shenhun and King Beniao also looked at each other. Then he turned around and left. After watching the two leave, Monk happily returned to his room to rest. Just when everyone thought everything was going well, Shichibukai Gecko Moria went crazy. 0. Advertisement. This guy was going to provoke Monk. Monk also doesn't know the name of Gecko Moria, because he is not interested in such weaklings. But Gecko Moria keeps messing with Monk. Monk is now ready to investigate the specific situation of Gecko Moria. Then Monk found the Ben Bird King and the Soul Venerable. After finding the two, Monk asked them with a serious face. Both, who is Gecko Moria? Why is he so rampant? After saying this, Monk looked at Venerable Soul and Ben Naozai suspiciously. Wanted to get the two of them to myself and explain the situation with this guy Gecko Moria. 5.6 Hearing Monk's inquiry, Venerable Shenhun hurriedly said to Monk. Gecko Moria is one of the Shichibukai, and I heard that he devoured the shadow fruit in the past. And the ability to use the shadow fruit is perfect. Now his place is full of zombies. The reason why the other party comes to trouble you is probably because they want to use you to promote their reputation. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 483 A Little Shichibukai. Advertisement. After hearing the words of the Venerable Soul, Monk also slammed the table. Then he said in a cold voice. It's really unexpected, just a little Shichibukai, dare to challenge me. It seems that I have to be above this world, to raise my own prestige. Otherwise, there will be a lot of Xiao coming to find my troubles. Quote. After saying this, Monk stood up angrily, ready to set off to kill Gecko Moria. But at this moment, Venerable Shenhun hurriedly stopped Monk. I only heard Venerable Shensoul speaking to Monk at this time. You just leave the Ten guy to me, his strength is not strong enough for you to make a move. He is only good at controlling those zombies, but his own strength is very weak. If I go there, he can be easily killed. I'll be back with his head when the time comes. Quote. Hearing the words of Venerable Spiritual Soul, Monk also pondered for a moment. Advertisement. Then he turned his head, looked at Ben Bird King, and said to Ben Bird King. Ben Bird King, you will go with Venerable Spiritual Soul next. I'm afraid that Venerable Soul will go there by himself, and he won't be able to deal with those zombies properly. You stop the zombies, while the Spirit Master takes care of Gecko Moria. In that case, things can be handled more safely. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Dianguang did not refuse. In this way, the Beniao King and the Divine Soul Venerable also acted together. As for Gecko Moria, those already looked down on him. In his opinion, he is very powerful and can definitely defeat Monk easily. In this way, he also had a whim, planning to surprise Monk at this time, so as to kill Monk. After making up his mind, he asked his subordinates to drive the zombies onto the boat. Then everyone can set off together, go to the place where Monk's ghost gang is located, and wreak havoc. After making up his mind, he quickly urged those subordinates to get them ready. Many subordinates were shocked after hearing Gecko Moria's words. Advertisement. They also never thought that Gecko Moria was going to provoke Monk for no reason. This made them feel a dream for a while. Monk is terrifyingly strong alone, and the strong members of the Ghost Gate gang under him also have strong personal combat capabilities. Although, their captain's ability to control and concentrate is very powerful. But if you are not careful, you may be ambushed to death by Monk's men. With this in mind, several subordinates also began to persuade Gecko Moria, asking Gecko Moria to think about it. Make a decision from 757 instead of being so impulsive. Gecko Moria shook his head, and then spoke to his subordinates. This is the best time to make a shot, before Monk and the others react. We let the zombies go to the Ghost Gang and slaughter the Ghost Gang. Then Monk will be alone. And we can also take advantage of that time to send an invitation to Monk and let Monk join me. In that case, I will be able to obtain a powerful subordinate. After saying this, Gecko Moria started there, laughing arrogantly. Advertisement. Chapter 484 Gecko Moria. Advertisement. The subordinates saw that there was no way to persuade Gecko Moria, so they could only let Gecko Moria arrange it. In this way, Gecko Moria brought the zombies and several of his subordinates to the outside of Monk's Ghost Gang. Prepare to surround the Ghost Gang and kill all of Monk's subordinates. But after hearing the voices outside, Monk was the first to respond. Quickly start arranging the strong men of the Ghost Gate Gang to prepare them for the enemy. By the time those strong members of the Gimmon Gang were getting ready, Monk had already left the Gimmon Gang and appeared in front of Gecko Moria. Seeing Gecko Moria's weird body, Monk also froze for a moment. Then he said to Gecko Moria in a cold voice, "If I'm not mistaken, are you Gecko Moria?" Hearing Monk's inquiry, Gecko Moria nodded heavily, and then answered Monk. "Yes, I am Gecko Moria, I came here today to make you my subordinate. I don't care if you agree or not, I will force you to agree today." After saying this, Gecko Moria took out his weapon. Seeing Gecko Moria's weird weapon, Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Advertisement. Then look behind Gecko Moria. He found that the zombies behind Gecko Moria were all wearing black robes. Standing there stiffly, waiting for Gecko Moria's order. Gecko Moria seemed to sense Monk's gaze. Then, Gecko Moria spoke arrogantly to Monk. "See, those are the zombies I control. If you are sensible, surrender to me quickly. Otherwise, I will control those zombies to rush into the Ghost Gang, and slaughter the Ghost Gang and all the strong members of the Ghost Gang. In that case, your previous efforts will be in vain. If you want me to say, you should take refuge in me as a gentleman who knows current affairs." Quote. Then he spoke to Gecko Moria. "I will give you two options now, one option is to take your men and leave." Seeing the monk suddenly disappearing in front of him, Gecko Moria hurriedly ordered the zombies to stand in front of him. "You don't want to whine about me there." Advertisement. If Monk can still win, it would be a bit unrealistic. Monk came to Gecko Moria. Just like that, Monk stomped his right foot suddenly, and the whole person disappeared in place with a whoosh. He was the one who came out with all the zombies and his men. The second choice is to die here with those zombies. Monk saw that Gecko Moria was still rampant there, so he was ready to make a move now. You make a choice now. Monk's foot stepped on the ground where Monk originally stayed, and a big hole was created. Hearing Gecko Moria chattering there, Monk snorted coldly. After finishing this sentence, Monk waited for the other party's answer. After hearing what Monk said, Gecko Moria burst out laughing. But it hasn't waited for those zombies to stand up. In his opinion, this is just Monk's tongue-in-cheek ability there. It's a good time to try the strength of Ti Qian Jiao Hao Sheng, and how powerful it can be after using it. Advertisement. Chapter 485, A Scary Scene. Advertisement. Looking at the panicked Gecko Moria, Monk also smiled and patted Gecko Moria on the shoulder. Then he spoke to Gecko Moria. "You don't have to be too nervous, I won't attack you immediately, I will kill all the zombies under your command. I will kill you at the end." Quote. After saying this sentence, Monk disappeared again. Gecko Moria's body was also stiff, and he turned his head away, trying to find traces of Monk. Then he saw a horrifying scene. Those zombies that are extremely terrifying in the eyes of ordinary people are like fragile tofu in Monk's hands. When Monk touches it lightly, the zombie will explode instantly. Monk's speed is also extremely fast. In just a short time, all the zombies under Gecko Moria died on the spot. Those subordinates of Gecko Moria also wanted to take this opportunity to escape. But they were all easily killed by Monk. Seeing the corpses beside him, Gecko Moria also showed a frightened expression. Advertisement. After he found that Monk appeared in front of him again, he fell to his knees with a plop, wanting to beg for mercy from Monk. But Monk waved his hand and spoke to Gecko Moria. Before, I have made it clear to you to let you make a choice. But you guy insists on being stubborn, so I am going to kill you, and you don't have to ask me for mercy. There is no need to say that you have to surrender to me. Because I won't accept it. Alright, I won't talk to you anymore, and I'll send you on your way. Quote. After saying this, Monk stretched out his thumb and forefinger, and with a flick of his fingers, he shattered Gecko Moria's head. After completing these actions, Monk walked towards the Ghost Gate gang in a leisurely manner. And at this time, those strong members of the Ghost Gate gang can barely walk out of the Ghost Gate gang. When he saw the mess in front of him, he also froze in place. Monk also said with a smile when he saw these strong men from the Ghost Gate gang coming. It just so happens that you are here, and the rest of the mess here will be cleaned up by you. Balked after saying this, Monk patted the shoulder of the strong man of the Ghost gang. Advertisement. Then he went back to his room to rest. After being dazed for a while, those strong members of the Ghost Gate gang began to clean up the scene. Wait until they bury all those corpses. And after filling the blood-stained area with other soil. So I was going to go back to the Ghost Gate to help each of them perform their duties to deal with the work. But at this moment, Venerable Shenhun and Dianguang came back. Seeing those powerful members of the Gimin gang, they were sweating profusely from exhaustion. The two of them are also very puzzled. I don't know what happened to these Ghost gang powerhouses just now. After the two looked at each other, the Venerable Soul slowly stepped forward and called a strong man from the Ghost Gate gang to stop. Then he asked, "What the hell happened here? Why are you so tired and sweating?" After saying this, he waited for the other party's answer. After wiping off his sweat, the strong man from the Ghost Gate gang replied pantingly to Venerable Soul. Just now, Gecko Moria brought a lot of subordinates and came to trouble Mr. Monk. Advertisement. Chapter 486 Feeling Ashamed. Advertisement. Master Monk also killed them all, and now Master Monk went back to rest. We will be responsible for the aftermath and clean up those corpses. Quote. After hearing the words of the strong man of the Gimin gang in front of him, Venerable Shenhun and Dianguang also showed shocked expressions. They were looking for Gecko Moria all the time before. But I didn't expect Gecko Moria to come here in person with the audacity. This is really incredible, and this was a task that Monk had assigned to them, but they failed to complete it, and instead handed over this task to Monk. This was too embarrassing for the two of them. After the two discussed it, they prepared to go to Monk to plead guilty. Just like that, the two of them came to Monk's residence in a hurry. After knocking on Monk's door, stand there and wait for Monk to come out. After Monk heard the knock on the door outside, he also opened the door in doubt. Afterwards, they saw Ben Bird King and Venerable Spiritual Soul standing outside. Advertisement. He didn't understand what the two of them were here for, and Monk was going to ask. You two, do you have anything to do? In fact, Monk wanted to rest, but now that the two have arrived here, it's not appropriate for him not to receive him here. After hearing what Monk said, Venerable Soul also scratched his head in embarrassment. Then he said to Monk with a look of embarrassment. It's really embarrassing, the task of beheading Gecko Moria was obviously taken by the two of us. But instead of the two of us killing Gecko Moria, you killed him instead. Quote. The two of us were still boasting and making promises to you, but now we feel ashamed when we think about it. So now Dianguang and I are going to come here to apologize to you. Quote. After hearing what the two said, Monk also felt extremely helpless. After waving his hands towards the two of them, he spoke. Where did you two come from? Go where you want to cool off. The matter has been settled, and I didn't want to settle accounts with you, you two guys actually came to me. Advertisement. Zero looking for flowers. If I really want to settle accounts with you. Quote. Then I will look for the two of you as soon as you two come back, but do you see that I have looked for you? What I want most now is to rest, not to punish you by staying idle. So where did you two guys come from? Where are you going to cool off? Quote. Zero. After saying this, Monk couldn't help but close the door. Then he lay down on the bed and rested on his own. Seeing the closed door, Venerable Shenhun and Dianguang also looked at each other, and then they left here together. They are also very fortunate to have met a leader like Monk. If you encounter those chiefs who care about everything, this matter is likely to endanger their lives. In this way, the life of Gecko Moria was not taken seriously by Monk. His death seemed to be an episode, and no one took it seriously. In the next period of time, the Ghost Gang has been developing, and the situation in the underwater world is getting better and better. Advertisement. Chapter 487. A guy called Blackwater Ghost. Advertisement. The Ghost Gate Gang and the underwater world keep pace with each other and are developing their forces together. Monk found that these two forces were managed very well by the Venerable Soul and the Warden, so he was happy to be at leisure. In the early stage, he would also take care of the affairs of the two organizations. But later, he found that whether he went or not did not affect others. He also directly became the hands-off shopkeeper, and handed over everything to the Warden of Dian, 830, and Venerable Shenhun and others. This made the Warden, Venerable Soul and others extremely helpless. But there is no way. Who let Monk be their leader? They can only hold their noses and continue to work for Monk. After staying with the Gimmon gang for a while, Monk also felt very boring. It is very boring to be in one place from time to time, so Monk is going to go out for a trip. Take a good look at the scenery on the sea. Although in the past, Monk often went to see the situation on the sea. However, Monk stayed in the Ghost Gate gang for too long, so long that he almost forgot what was going on at sea. Advertisement. In this way, Monk also greeted Venerable Shenhun and Dianguang. So he embarked on the road of leaving the Ghost gang and traveling again. In the process of traveling, Monk also came to a small town. Above this small town, Monk also felt that the scenery here was very beautiful, so he planned to stay here more. Anyway, there is nothing to do, it is better to stay here for a few days. While Monk stayed here, a guy named Black Water Ghost also appeared in the nearby water source. This water source is the most fancy place for these people, and no one is allowed to come here to pollute it. Because the water source here is really precious. This made his living environment strictly restricted, and he could only find some fresh water resources from his wife. Don't look at the sea nearby, but how could the water in the sea be absorbed by people? Because the world he lives in does have a lot of water, but it has not reached the situation where there are oceans everywhere. And there are many sea king stops. Otherwise, the people here would have fled long ago, and it is absolutely impossible for so many people to stay here. Advertisement. This made those common people who value these freshwater resources start to pay attention to the situation at this time. He also wants to survive in the sea, but he can't adapt to the environment in the sea. There are no those 3.9 large beasts, and he is like a fish in water here. When he first appeared here, he was still cautious, only swallowing dozens of liters of water in a day. Because it is well protected by those villagers, only some common fish survive in this freshwater lake. The reason why he is called the Black Water Ghost is because he is a ghost, and he is also a ghost who died in the water. 0. He always feels that he is not from this world. But later he found that none of the villagers paid attention to him, so he also became unscrupulous. After he had the ability to think, he kept thinking about the memories of his previous life. Swallow as much water as you can swallow in a day. And the fresh water resources of this small town were targeted by him. Just because there is an extremely vast freshwater lake here, the people here will stay here. And the idea of the Black Water Ghost is to swallow all the fresh water. Advertisement. Chapter 488 Cherish the source of water. Advertisement. Because of the devouring of the Black Water Ghost, the amount of water that was originally a lake was disappearing continuously. It used to be able to submerge people, but now it can only reach people's waist and abdomen. This strange situation also attracted the attention of all the people. All the people also gathered in front of the lake, ready to see what was going on here. Why did the water here suddenly disappear so much? And Monk is also ready to blend in because he is bored. After he reached the front of the lake, his eyes narrowed slightly, because he saw a black air spreading upwards in the middle of the lake. He knew that there must be some evil spirit staying in the water. Even if the sudden 10% disappearance of these waters is not directly related to this monster, there must be an indirect relationship. But Monk, as a passerby, is not prepared to get too involved in things here. He was afraid that if he had done too much, he would be bitten back by these people. In that case, he would not be able to clean himself up even if he jumped into the Yellow River. At this time, an elderly man among the common people also hit his walking stick. A young and middle-aged man next to him hurried forward and said to the old man. Advertisement. Village chief, what do you think? After hearing the young man's inquiry, the village head pondered for a moment. Then he spoke to many villagers. Everyone, let's cherish the water source next. The old man thought it might be because of the weather that the water evaporated too much. Otherwise this would not have happened. Quote. Hearing the words of the village chief, the villagers nodded again and again. In their view, the village head is the sky, and what the village head says is the imperial decree. In this way, this matter will be over. The Black Water Ghost who checked the specific situation in the middle of the lake also grinned. Seeing that everyone had left, he also left the water, ready to find a place to bask in the sun. After he considered his words, he asked the Black Water Ghost. Obviously you are a ghost, okay. After saying this, Monk squatted down slowly. Advertisement. Then he told Monk all about his own situation. I won't tell you so many useless things. He had never seen such a cowardly ghost, and then he said helplessly to the Black Water Ghost. Damn, it's too scary. He looked at the Black Water Ghost in front of him with a smile that was not a smile, and the strength on his body also came out through his body. After feeling the powerful strength of Monk, the Black Water Ghost couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. But at this moment, he actually saw the person standing next to him. You appeared in front of me out of nowhere, how do I know if you are a human or a ghost? Let me ask you now, why do you want to kill the water source here, what is your intention? It really makes me feel unbelievable. You, a ghost, are still afraid of ghosts. It's really incomprehensible. Quote. Hearing what the Black Water Ghost said, Monk couldn't help rolling his eyes. Seeing your shadow now, I-647 can know that you are human. Quote. After saying this, he also breathed a sigh of relief, and Meng was also very grateful for this. Then he panicked, stepped back a long distance, and finally muttered to himself. After hearing Monk's words, Black Water Ghost also cleared his throat, and then spoke to Monk pretending to be calm. Advertisement. Chapter 489 End of Tour. Advertisement. After hearing the explanation of the black water ghost, Monk suddenly realized. It turned out that this guy was a water ghost, and he had to swallow fresh water to survive. No wonder the fresh water resources here have been dwindling recently. After finding out the specific situation, Monk slowly stood up and said to the black water ghost. Although you will die without this fresh water, the villagers will also die without this water. So will you hold back a little bit? If you need to absorb some water, just change to another place. You'll have no problem coming back when there's enough fresh water here. Quote. After saying this, Monk patted Blackwater Ghost on the shoulder, turned and left. Watching Monk leave, the Blackwater Ghost was also a little dazed. He didn't expect Monk to let him go just like that. In his opinion, this time he might die without a burial place, but he didn't expect Monk to spare his life. Then he jumped into the water with a plop, and then he planned not to leave here in the future. He simply forgot what Monk had just said. After Monk returned to his residence, he also prepared to take a short rest before leaving here. Advertisement. After making up his mind, Monk lay down on the bed and fell asleep soundly. Monk packed his bags and left the place early the next morning. From Monk's point of view, under his own warning, the black water ghost will definitely restrain himself. At that time, the water source here will still be able to supply the survival of these people. In this way, Monk continued to embark on his own path with confidence. Monk was finally tired from his constant traveling. He had been wandering outside for half a year, and it was time to leave. Then Monk returned to the places he had traveled along the same road, and he had been to these places before. It's the same as before and nothing has changed. But when he returned to the small mountain village at the beginning, he found that the people here had all left. Backquote, what's your name? Why are you living here alone? This made Monk a little disappointed. He thought he had caught the murderer. After thinking of this, Monk is also ready to find out. After he caught up with the Black Shadow, he found that the guy was just a dirty child. Advertisement. Monk is also very puzzled by this, not knowing why this kind of thing happened suddenly. After the child took the water bag, Li Dezhao, he unscrewed the lid and gulped the water. Deng even sat on the ground with the child, and then asked the child. The child was still very scared. But before Monk could go far, he saw a black shadow flashing away. Monk stared and quickly followed up. After hearing Monk's question, Lu Dabao also answered to Monk. After seeing the other person's appearance, Monk also became interested. Monk also inadvertently sensed the other person's expression, and then took off the water bag from his waist and threw it to the child. When he was full, he lazily lay down on the ground. Could it be that after he left, is there any powerful guy here to destroy himself? Some people even died at home, because he saw some dead bones from the homes of those people. How long has it been since such a serious thing happened? But when he saw the other water bag on Monk's waist, he also showed an expectant expression. Advertisement. Chapter 490 Trapped Here. Advertisement. My name is Lu Dabao, and I want to leave here too. But I can't find my way out of here, so I've been stuck here. Quote. Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows after hearing what the other party said. Since the other party is an aborigine here, he should know why these people died. Then Monk asked Lu Dabao. Since you have been living here, do you know why these people died? After saying this, Monk waited for Lu Dabao's answer. After hearing Monk's question, Lu Dabao actually started feeling sad. Seeing that the other party was about to cry, Monk hurriedly comforted him. After being comforted by Monk, Lu Dabao spoke to Monk while sobbing. It's all because of that guy called Blackwater Ghost. If he hadn't come here and devoured all the water sources that our village depends on for survival, we can still survive. Quote. Advertisement. After hearing the name Blackwater Ghost, Monk's eyebrows instantly stood up. He didn't expect that the real Blackwater Ghost would be so bold. I had warned the other party before, but I didn't expect him to take my words as a deaf ear. This is so infuriating. And Lu Dabao is still talking to himself at this time. Our village chief also invited many monster hunters to kill the Blackwater Ghost. But somehow the Blackwater Ghost, this guy just can't get rid of it. Quote. In the end, among the people in our village, I was the only one left who jumped and died. I wanted to leave too, but somehow, there seems to be a natural barrier here, blocking me and making it impossible for me to leave. Quote. After understanding the specific situation, Monk also waved his hand towards the Blackwater Ghost, and then spoke to Lu Dabao. Let's not talk about other topics yet, tell me first, is the Blackwater Ghost still here? After saying this, Monk waited for Lu Dabao's answer. After hearing the question from the main song, Lu Dabao said to Monk without hesitation. Advertisement. The Blackwater Ghost is still here, but his condition is not good. Because of the lack of water supplements, he was extremely weak. Quote. After hearing Lu Dabao's words, Monk nodded slightly. Then he stood up and walked towards the distance. He had been to that lake before, so he knew where the Blackwater Ghost was. Since the Blackwater Ghost has not left, then he must still stay there. When Lu Dabao saw Monk taking action, he also hurried to catch up with Monk. I don't know what Monk is going to do, but he knows that Monk is a backer. If he can catch it, he will be able to rise to prominence. After Monk glanced at Lu Dabao, he ignored him and just walked forward. Soon, he came to the water source. After waiting there, the original lake has become a small puddle. After seeing the black water ghost with its head protruding from the small puddle, Monk also showed a sneer. Walking forward slowly and waving his hand, all the water sources soaked beside the black water ghost disappeared. Realizing that the water sources beside him had disappeared, the black water ghost also raised his head in shock, and then saw Meng Chen. Advertisement. Chapter 491 is to blame the monk. Advertisement. Monk also said to the black water ghost in a cold voice at this moment. You guys really don't know how to live and die, have you forgotten what I told you last time? After hearing Monk's words, Haishwigi also rolled his eyes, and then he was ready to argue. But Monk has already seen what the black water ghost is thinking. At this moment, he also said to the black water ghost in a cold voice. Don't try to deceive me, I have already noticed your inner thoughts. If you still want to live, I can barely save you a life. After saying this, Monk also looked at the black water ghost with a half smile, waiting for the black water ghost's answer. After hearing what Monk said, the black water ghost also knew that there was no way to hide it any longer. Then, after deliberating his words, he spoke to Monk. Since you have asked, I will tell you the truth. In the past, I didn't hear what you said clearly at all. Quote. So I don't know what you want me to do. Advertisement. After thinking about it for a while, I couldn't figure it out, so I didn't continue to think about it. Quote. After saying this, he also spread his hands, expressing his innocence. After hearing what the black water ghost said, Monk also said to the black water ghost in a cold voice. You guys are really disgusting, are you blaming me? After saying this, Monk waited for the answer from the black water ghost. The black water ghost didn't speak at this moment, but his attitude had already shown Monk that he was blaming Monk. At this moment, Monk also stretched out his hand and grabbed the head of the black water ghost, pulling the black water ghost up. Haishwigi felt Monk pulling his hair, and he also felt dry anger. Although Monk is said to be powerful, he is still unconvinced. Immediately burst into flames, and the strength of the whole body radiated out at this moment. He didn't expect Monk to be so powerful, which made him shudder a little. Lu Dabao next to him also exclaimed, and Monk finally realized that Lu Dabao was still following him. Since you swallowed so many water sources before, you must be able to feed back a lot of water sources after death. Advertisement. Lu Dabao, you better not stay here too long, I'm afraid I'll hurt you. Monk also hurriedly spoke to Lu Dabao. He didn't expect that the guy in front of him was going to resist him, it was a bit daring. After saying this, Monk quickly punched out hard. Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows at this moment. In that case, I don't need to hold back. Quote. Monk let the black water ghost break free without a firm grip. After the black water ghost landed, he looked at Monk viciously. Where he was originally standing, a deep pothole had been formed by Monk. Since you are so unconvinced, then I can only kill you next. At this time, the black water ghost also hastily retreated a long distance. Seeing that Lu Dabao had already run away, Monk said to the black water ghost in a cold voice. After seeing the deep pothole, the pupils of the black water ghost couldn't help shrinking slightly. After Lu Dabao heard Monk's words, he nodded quickly, turned around and left here. 0.00. Advertisement. Chapter 492. A big beach of silt. Advertisement. But he is not ready to give up, because he will not accept his fate. And he didn't want to hand over his life to Monk. In this way, he also kept resisting Monk there. After fighting the black water ghost for a few rounds, Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Because Monk never thought that the black water ghost would still be there to give him stubborn resistance. And this guy's 147 strength is slowly improving. He looked sluggish just now, but now he can fight against himself. This is really incredible, so Monk couldn't help loving talents, and then he said to the black water ghost. Black water ghost, do you want to take refuge with me? After saying this, Monk also smiled and looked at the black water ghost, waiting for the black water ghost's answer. Hearing what Monk said, the black water ghost shook his head fiercely without even hesitating. Seeing the black water ghost shaking his head, Monk also knew that he couldn't win his surrender. Advertisement. That being the case, then there is no need for him to keep his hand, it is better to kill him. And just when Monk was thinking this way, a large puddle of mud appeared in front of Monk. Monk also waved his hand fiercely, and the silt disappeared in an instant. After the silt disappeared, it was too late for Monk to find traces of the black water ghost. Because the black water ghost has escaped a long way. If Monk goes after him now, he might catch up with the black water ghost, but Lu Dabao's safety cannot be guaranteed. In order to ensure Lu Dabao's safety, Monk sighed helplessly and could only watch the black water ghost leave. Seeing that the black water ghost had escaped, Lu Dabao let go of his courage. Then he quickly ran up to Monk, and asked Monk suspiciously. Obviously there is a chance, why don't you kill him? After saying this, he also waited for Monk's answer. After hearing Lu Dabao's question, Monk shook his head helplessly. After sighing, he replied helplessly to Lu Dabao. You think I don't want to kill them, it's not because you are here. Advertisement. If you don't stay here, I will kill him immediately. 0 degrees. But it's a pity that because of you staying here, I can't spare my hands to chase the black water ghost. He could only let the black water ghost go. Quote. After saying this, Monk patted Lu Dabao on the shoulder, and then spoke to Lu Dabao. Don't worry, I'll take you back next. That way, you won't have to worry about it. After I bring you back to my Ghost Gate to help you there, you can always survive in the Ghost Gate gang. Quote. After saying this, Monk couldn't help but reach out his hand to Lu Dabao as a gesture. Let Lu Dabao follow him and walk into the distance. Lu Dabao followed Monk without any hesitation, and walked forward. Because he is also homeless at the moment, following Monk is his best opportunity, and he will not refuse this good opportunity. In this way, Monk brought Lu Dabao back to the Giman gang. Seeing Monk bring back a child from outside, Venerable Soul also asked Monk suspiciously. Chief, where did you abduct this kid? Advertisement. Chapter 493, The Treasure Sea Dragon Soul. Advertisement. After saying this, he looked at Monk inquiringly, waiting for Monk's answer. Ben Naowang also showed the same puzzled expression on the side, and he was also a little curious. After seeing the searching eyes of the two, Monk also felt a little helpless. Then he told the two people in front of him all the details of what happened. After they learned the specific situation, they suddenly realized it. And he also threatened that he must fight the Black Water Ghost for Lu Dabao. At that time, the Black Water Ghost must pay a heavy price. After hearing what the two said, Monk waved his hands helplessly, and said to the two. As long as the two of you follow along, it's fine if you don't make trouble casually. Other things don't need the two of you to deal with. Quote. After hearing what the other party said, Venerable Shenhun and King Benyao also felt very regretful. When they were about to leave, Monk also stopped the Venerable Soul and Ben Bird King. Then he said helplessly to the two of them. Advertisement. Don't leave, you two, take care of Lu Dabao for me first. After saying this, he motioned for the two to take Lu Dabao away. Lu Dabao was also well behaved, and left with Ben Naowang and Venerable Shenhun. After Lu Dabao and others left, Monk had a rare time of leisure. Just when Monk thought that his side would definitely be able to relax for a long time. A treasure called Sea Dragon Soul was also born out of nowhere. I heard that the protection of this Sea Dragon Soul is no small matter. As long as the Sea Dragon Soul can be obtained, the user can become the third in the world. Monk is not very interested in this rumor, but he is very interested in Sea Dragon Soul itself. In this way, Monk also called Ben Bird King and Venerable Shenhun to his side. After hearing Benyao King's reply, Monk nodded lightly, and then spoke. Although, I heard that the two of them have already told the general situation of Heilonghan. But Monk still doesn't know exactly where this Sea Dragon Soul is and what it looks like. Venerable Shenhun also shook his head at this moment. His idea was to let King Benyao answer. Advertisement. We also discovered that the treasure of Sea Dragon Soul has attracted the attention of many people. 827. If you want to get the Sea Dragon Soul, you must act quickly. After pushing open the door, the two saw Monk's serious face. Master Monk, after investigation by me and Venerable Soul. After saying this, they also looked at Monk seriously. I understand what you said, but what should I do next? After finishing these words, he waited for the reply from Venerable Shenhun and Benyao. After pondering for a moment, Benyao King turned his head to look at Venerable Soul. Benyao Wang also nodded slightly, and then spoke forcefully to Monk. Then Monk asked the two of them. When they learned that Monk told them to go, they understood what Monk was thinking. You two, have you heard the rumors about the soul of the sea dragon recently? Then the two hurriedly came to Monk. After finishing these words, he was also serious, and looked at Venerable Shenhun and King Benyao in front of him. Otherwise, you will get nothing at that time. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 494. The place that falls into the Dragon Lake. Advertisement. So Monk hoped that these two people could give a good answer. After this sentence was finished, Monk waited for the reply from Venerable Shenhun and Benyao. Venerable Shenhun and Benyao looked at each other, and then spoke forcefully to Monk. We really don't know the specific appearance of Sea Dragon Soul, but we have seen its location. After finishing these words, he also paused. Afterwards, Venerable Divine Soul spoke again to Monk. It should be where our Ghost Gate gang travels 7,000 miles west, where the Sea Dragon Soul exists. After hearing what the other party said, Monk also nodded slightly. Then he slowly stood up and spoke to the people in front of him. Since that's the case, then you should just stay with the Ghost Gate gang and remember to protect Lu Dabao. I went there to take a good look and try to get the Heilong Soul into my bag. Quote. After saying this, Monk no longer hesitated, and acted decisively. Seeing Monk in such a hurry, Benyao Wang hurriedly stopped Monk, and then said helplessly to Monk. Advertisement. Master Monk, you should make some preparations, you can't just act so hastily. You have no helpers to help you if things go wrong. So let me say, one of the two of us will go with you. Hearing Benyao Wang's words, Monk shook his head slightly. Then he spoke to Venerable Soul and Ben Bird King. No need, the two of you can just stay in the Gate of Hell and help take care of Lu Dabao. It's no problem for me to go with my own money, and if there are few people, the activities are more flexible. Quote. After saying this, Monk patted the shoulders of Venerable Shenhun and Benyao King respectively. Then he moved quickly. After Monk searched for a while, he finally came to a place called Luolong Lake. I heard that there is a dragon falling here, so the Sea Dragon Soul must belong to the falling dragon. Then Monk was aimless, looking for the Sea Dragon Soul in Luolong Lake. At this time, Monk actually saw the Black Water Ghost. Advertisement. After seeing the Black Water Ghost, Monk also showed a sneer. I have to say, it's really a narrow road to Yuanjia. The Black Water Ghost also found Monk at this time, and he immediately started running without any hesitation. He didn't dare to continue fighting with Monk here any longer. The last time it was because a calf is not afraid of tigers, he didn't consider Monk's strength at all. So he dared to compete with Monk, but at this time, he already understood Monk's true strength. As a result, he is timid when fighting Monk now, and he dare not compete with Monk at all. Seeing Monk looking at him, Haishuigi felt a burst of fear, and did not dare to stay here, Wang Zhaozhao, any longer. Seeing the Black Water Ghost running non-stop, Monk felt a little helpless. Could it be that he was really that scary? Then Monk said helplessly to the Black Water Ghost in front of him. Backquote, what are you hiding? Am I that scary? Seeing Monk appear in front of him in a flash, the Black Water Ghost's entire face turned extremely pale. He also never thought that Monk's speed was so fast. Advertisement. Chapter 495. Monk's right arm is crippled. Advertisement. I didn't realize it at all, and the other party came to me. Isn't this a bit too unreasonable? Sensing that the other party has been in a daze, Monk also frowned at the Black Water Ghost, and said in a cold voice. Hey, I'm talking to you. What are you thinking about? Do you want to die? After saying this sentence, Monk also looked at the Black Water Ghost leisurely, waiting for the Black Water Ghost's answer. After hearing what Monk said, the Black Water Ghost also laughed awkwardly. Then, after scratching the back of his head, he spoke to Monk. You are not afraid, I am just going to leave first because I suddenly thought of something. Please forgive me if 033 offends me. After hearing what the other party said, Monk also smiled helplessly. This guy was obviously extremely arrogant in the past. But he didn't expect to be so polite at this time, which made Monk feel a little overwhelmed. Then Monk spoke to the Black Water Ghost. You were so arrogant before, how come you are no longer arrogant at this time? Advertisement. Do you know how powerful I am? Hearing the other party's words, the Black Water Ghost also nodded quickly, and then kept complimenting Monk there. As if Monk is such a powerful character. Monk was a little embarrassed to be praised by the other party, and then shook his head. I am going to talk to the Black Water Ghost about the Sea Dragon Soul. But at this moment, the Black Water Ghost suddenly jumped up and sent an attack towards Monk's heart. Monk had made preparations in advance, otherwise he would probably die here. But even so, Monk's right arm has been maimed by the Black Water Ghost. Seeing Meng Na's injured appearance, the Black Water Ghost also laughed arrogantly. Seeing the other party's villainous look, Monk also said with a cold snort. I didn't expect you to be such a despicable person. It seems that if Baya doesn't kill you next time, it would be too cheap for you. After saying this, he also looked at the Black Water Ghost with a half smile. Advertisement. After seeing Monk's arrogant appearance, the Black Water Ghost was also out of breath. Facing Monk, he said in a cold voice. You guys really don't know what to say, you have been injured by me, but you are still so rampant. Don't you know my true strength? The reason why I praised you so much just now is mainly to let you relax your vigilance, and then kill you. Now I, too, can let go. After saying this, the Black Water Ghost rushed forward quickly, and then attacked Monk's vitals. Monk also snorted coldly, and then fought with the Black Water Ghost. Because the Black Water Ghost injured Monk before. So when he was fighting Monk, he also had the upper hand. Monk hit harder and harder, his arm seemed to be broken. Seeing Monk's slow-moving look, the Blackwater Ghost also suddenly dodges behind Monk, ready to kill Monk. But at this time, no matter it is the Blackwater Ghost who has the upper hand. Or the monk who was about to be injured, all looked in one direction. Advertisement. Chapter 496. The Wanzhong Twin Brothers. Advertisement. There suddenly came a powerful wave of breath. After the two looked at each other, they snorted coldly, and then disappeared together in place. When it reappeared, it was also at the place where Hailonghan showed it. After arriving here, Monk waited for the appearance of the Sea Dragon Soul. But Hailonghan did not appear, but saw two people. The two were wearing different colored clothes, but it was clear at a glance that they were twins. Seeing the Wanzhong brothers holding Hailong's soul in their hands, the Blackwater Ghost was also furious. On his side, he fought hard with Monk for the purpose of obtaining the Sea Dragon Soul. He didn't expect Hailonghan to be boarded first, which made him very angry. Then he said to Meng, Monk, put aside the grievances between the two of us, and then don't bother me. I want to kill these two despicable and shameless guys. After hearing what the Blackwater Ghost said, Monk nodded lightly. Advertisement. In his opinion, whether it is the Blackwater Ghost or the Wanzhong brothers, these three guys are not good things. Next, he didn't need to stop the fight between the three, he was happy to see that kind of dog-eat-dog scene. Seeing Monk step back, Blackwater Ghost nodded in satisfaction. Then he said to the two people in front of him in a cold voice. You two despicable and shameless fellows, report your name quickly. Hearing the Blackwater Ghost shouting there, the Wanzhong brothers also looked at each other. Then the two of them answered in unison to the Blackwater Ghost. We are called Wanzhong Twin Brothers, and today this Sea Dragon Soul is our treasure. I advise you to get out of here quickly, otherwise don't blame me for being rude to you. Hearing what the Wanzhong brothers said, the Blackwater Ghost gritted his teeth angrily. In his opinion, the Sea Dragon Soul is already his property, he has something to do with water, and the Sea Dragon Soul has a relationship with dragons. As long as he can get the sea dragon soul, he can control the water source. At that time, he no longer needs the water source to become his life. It is completely possible to swim in all directions without relying on the water source, and even follow the sea dragon soul to control the water. But because the Wanshong brothers blocked him in front, Hailong soul never fell into his hands. Advertisement. Zero looking for flowers, so he prepared to make the two guys in front of him pay the price. Then he said coldly to the Wanshong brothers, I really don't know what to say, I will kill you today. If I take Hailong's soul into my hands, no one can stop me. Quote. After saying this, the black water ghost rushed forward without any hesitation, and rushed behind the Wanshong brothers. Asterisk 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 asterisk. He also discovered that the Wanshong brothers were like robots, no matter how they spoke or acted, they were the same. Therefore, in his opinion, the Wanzhong brothers must not cooperate tacitly when fighting. Just like that, he instantly came behind the Wanzhong brothers, and then slapped the Wanzhong brothers with 3 palms and 1 punch respectively. But just when he thought that he would succeed, he killed the 2 guys in front of him. The voices of the Wanshong brothers also reached the ears of the Blackwater Ghost. It's really arrogant, it seems that if our 2 brothers don't show their true abilities, you guys will look down on us. As soon as the words fell, the Blackwater Ghost felt a pain in his abdomen, and then quickly flew upside down to die. Advertisement. Chapter 497. Snatching the Sea Dragon's Soul. Advertisement. After he flew a long distance, he also crashed into the mountain peak suddenly. The mountain peak was collided by the 2 of them, and seeing the Wanzhong brothers punching each other, they sent the Blackwater Ghost flying. Monk's eyes widened instantly, and he never thought that these 2 guys would be so strong. As if sensing Monk's gaze, the Wanshong brothers also slowly turned their heads to look at Monk. Then they said, 667, in unison to Monk, and said in a cold voice. Are you also planning to snatch our Sea Dragon soul? That being the case, don't waste time there, let's make a move quickly. Quote. After saying this, the 2 of them looked at Monk with burning eyes. Monk is not ready to do anything because of the lessons learned from the Blackwater Ghost. He was injured on both sides, how could he still be able to fight against the Wanshong brothers, these 2 guys? A person who knows the current affairs is a hero, he should evacuate first. When there is a chance, come and snatch the Hailong soul again. After making up his mind, Monk bowed his hands to the Wanshong brothers. Then he spoke forcefully to the 2 of them. Advertisement. I am injured, so I am not ready to fight with you. Next, please go ahead, the 2 of you, and I will leave first. Quote. After saying this, Monk turned around and left without any hesitation. Watching Monk leave, the Wanshong brothers did not chase after him either. Because in their view, chasing Monk would be troublesome. Now that the Sea Dragon soul has been obtained, then the next step is to absorb the Sea Dragon soul well. After Monk left, he held his wound and found an extremely secluded place. I heard that this place is called the Realm of Bigu. It is said that the creatures staying here can maintain their own survival without eating or drinking. Because Monk was injured, he didn't bother to get the food and drink. In order to relax, he came to the Bigu realm, where he was going to recover from his injuries. After the strength recovers, go to the Blackwater Ghost, or the Wanzhong twin brothers and others to settle accounts. At this time, Monk also looked at the bloody left arm, and reluctantly took out a gauze from the storage space. After wrapping the gauze around his arms, he began to absorb the energy floating in the sky. Advertisement. After he was going to absorb all of these energies, because of the energy he used. In that case, not only can the injury be recovered, but also the strength can be improved. With this in mind, Monk kept on recovering. In Monk's estimation, he may need a month to recover from the injury. But when Monk's strength returns to the state of complete victory, and all the injuries on his body recover. It only took half a month. Monk stood up and analyzed it a little bit, and felt that this might be related to the Bigu realm. Because there is no need to eat or drink the energy in the Bigu realm. It was because of this sufficient energy that the injury recovered so early. And it also ensures that his strength has improved by 0.3 liters. Monk also removed the gauze wrapped around his arm indiscriminately, and then he was about to take a step forward. But after walking a few steps, Monk stopped. Because he felt that if he went to find the Wanzhong brothers like this, he might not be able to defeat the Shishong brothers. These 2 guys are not very strong apart. But if they stand together and cooperate with each other, it is not comparable to their current state. Advertisement. Chapter 498. News about the Blackwater Ghost. Advertisement. If you want to kill both of them, you must ensure that they can be separated. But this idea is destined to be impossible to realize. Because no matter what these 2 guys are doing, they act together. It has reached the point where they are about to merge into one person, so it is impossible to separate them. So if you want to kill the 2 of them, there is only another way. That is to have strength stronger than the 2 of them. In that case, it can be guaranteed that these 2 guys will be killed easily, and then the Hailong soul will be obtained. But if you want to gain such a powerful strength and leave the Bigu realm, you don't have many opportunities. 10 Even if it can achieve that strength, it will take many years. After hesitating for a long time, Monk is going to go to the Bigu realm to practice for a while. When the strength has improved a lot, and they think they can beat the Wanzhong brothers, it is not too late to go. After making up his mind, Monk stayed in the Bigu again. Some creatures in the Bigu realm also know Monk, and chat with each other when they have nothing to do. After chatting, we all learned about Monk's past. Advertisement. They also heard that Monk had conflicts with Haishwidi and Yi Wanzhong twin brothers. Therefore, these living beings in the Bigu realm are also helping to investigate. On this day, a creature hurriedly found Monk. Monk also looked at the other party curiously, wondering why the other party suddenly found him. I only heard Monk asking in confusion at this time. Why did you find me all of a sudden? Do you have something to say? After saying this, Monk looked at the other party inquiringly, waiting for the other party's answer. The creature considered its words for a while, and then spoke forcefully to Monk. I came to you just to tell you about the Blackwater Ghost. Hearing the name Blackwater Ghost, Monk's eyebrows instantly stood up. Then he pricked up his ears, waiting for the creature's notification. After realizing that Monk was interested, the voice spirit smiled and said to Monk. I thought you weren't interested in the Blackwater Ghost. Advertisement. Since you are interested in him, let me have a good talk with you. Then he smiled mysteriously, and said to Monk. The Blackwater Ghost was seriously injured when he fought the Wanzhong brothers and the others last time. He is now outside of Bigu, a small Yamanaka not more than 500 miles away. Quote. There are few people there, so the Blackwater Ghost is also a chicken thief, so he chose to go there. 517 If you want revenge, you can take advantage of this opportunity to find him and kill him. Quote. Having said that, the creature compared its neck with its hands. After hearing what the other party said, Monk also grinned, and then spoke. Since he's already here, he's almost here before my eyes. If I don't go to him to settle accounts, it will be a bit unreasonable. Next, please help me and lead the way ahead. Quote. After finishing these words, he also looked at the creature with a smile. After hearing Monk's words, the creature patted itself on the chest, and then spoke to Monk. Advertisement. 490th Ix I won't trust him anymore. Advertisement. My pleasure. After saying this, he turned around and led the way ahead, while Monk hurriedly followed. Soon, the two arrived at the place where the Blackwater Ghost was. The Blackwater Ghost is also recovering from his injuries at this time. When he noticed the fluctuating breath outside, he was stunned. Because he felt the fluctuation of Monk's breath, Monk is not easy to mess with, and he has a deep hatred with him. Then, he quickly stood up and wanted to run. But at this moment, he found that Monk was standing right in front of him. This made the Blackwater Ghost shudder instantly. In the past, he could have used some insidious and cunning schemes to design Monk. Kill the monk by injuring the monk. But not at this time, because his injury is a bit too serious now. And since the last time the trick was used, Monk wouldn't trust him anymore. Even if he repeats his old tricks, Monk will still kill him without hesitation. Advertisement. Then he rolled his eyes and prepared to find other ways to escape. But Monk also said to the Blackwater Ghost in a cold voice when the Blackwater Ghost was thinking. You don't have to think about it, let me tell you the truth. You cannot escape today, I will definitely kill you. After saying this, Monk walked forward slowly. At this time, Monk's injury has recovered, and his strength has improved a lot in the Bigu realm. Monk is confident that he can wipe out the scourge of the Blackwater Ghost. After hearing what Monk said, the Blackwater Ghost quickly knelt down on the ground, and then spoke forcefully to Monk. Monk, please spare me now, our current enemies are the Wanzhong twin brothers and others. If you don't kill them, you won't get the Sea Dragon soul. Quote. The Blackwater Ghost also shook his head hastily, and then spoke to Monk. You must be aware, Monk, I never lied to you. After hearing the words of the Blackwater Ghost, Monk also thought secretly in his heart. After getting the Sea Dragon soul, it will not be too late to kill the Blackwater Ghost. Advertisement. After hurriedly standing up, he looked at Monk with a smirk on his face. After thinking about it, Monk raised his head and said to the Blackwater Ghost. What this guy said is quite reasonable, indeed, we should deal with the Wanzhong, are you okay brothers first? After saying this, he looked at Monk expectantly, expecting Monk to spare his life. Monk also showed a disgusted expression at this moment, and then said miscellaneously to the Blackwater Ghost in a cold voice. After hearing Monk's words, Haishwidi was also very happy. After saying this, Monk waited for his Blackwater Ghost's answer with a sneer on his face. What I say is true, you just believe me. Quote. You guys are not afraid of death, that's why you say such things. Quote. After hearing what the Blackwater Ghost said, Monk also spoke to the Blackwater Ghost with a half smile. After our Wanzhong twin brothers are wiped out, it won't be too late for you to deal with me. Even if I die at that time, I won't regret it. Quote. Okay, stand up, is that really what you think? And if you don't get the Sea Dragon soul, you won't be able to improve your strength, so I don't want you to calm down a bit. Advertisement. Chapter 500 Stabilizing the Injury. Advertisement. Don't pretend to me there, don't I know your character? Return to your normal state. In that case, the two of us can work together more happily. Quote. Hearing what Monk said, Haishwidi simply stopped pretending and returned to his original indifferent expression. Seeing that the Blackwater Ghost returned to his normal state, he no longer showed that flattering expression. Monk also nodded in satisfaction, and then spoke. Then the two of us will inquire about the Wanzhong twin brothers. Try to destroy the Wanzhong twin brothers, then you can get the Sea Dragon soul. Afterwards, I will give you a 763 chance to confront me head on. Quote. After saying this, Monk patted Blackwater Ghost on the shoulder, and then walked into the distance. After walking to the side of the creature in the Bigu realm, Monk thanked him. The creature also didn't say much, and after exchanging a few words with Monk, it left. Seeing the creature leave Monk, he turned his head again and found the Blackwater Ghost. Advertisement. Seeing Monk walking in front of him again, the Blackwater Ghost also smiled at Monk, and then spoke. BACJ, when I was in the past, I also inquired about the Wanzhong brothers. And I already know their exact location. But just because my injury hasn't recovered, I didn't act rashly like that. Now that you're here, don't rush. After my injury recovers, the two of us can go to the Wanzhong brothers in a state of complete victory. Hearing what the Blackwater Ghost said, Monk nodded slightly, and then spoke. You are right, but I can't wait that long. You first talk about how long it will take you to recover from the injury. After hearing what Monk said, the Blackwater Ghost was stunned on the spot. If it takes too long, I don't need to cooperate with you. Hearing the answer from the Blackwater Ghost, Monk nodded in satisfaction, and then spoke. The Blackwater Ghost at this time can't care about those things, even if the treasure that is treasured is very precious, he can't care about it. Advertisement. You don't need to worry, just give me 3 days, and I will be able to stabilize my injury. After that, I will use my treasured treasures to restore, and we will be able to pass the day after tomorrow. If one of the two of us is disabled, then our operation will inevitably end in failure. Quote. After I kill you, it is no problem to find other people to cooperate. Quote. That way the odds are better. After saying this, Monk waited for the answer from the Blackwater Ghost. After saying this, Monk found a quiet place to stay. In that case, even if there are precious treasures, they are useless. Because Monk has made it clear that if he takes too long to recover from his injuries, Monk will kill him. If after 3 days, you can't deal with what you said, then I will be rude to you. Quote. Okay, since that's the case, then I'll give you another 3 days. He didn't expect Monk to be so cruel, and finally, after deliberating his words, he spoke to Monk. Advertisement. Chapter 501. Cooperate to snatch the Sea Dragon's soul. Advertisement. Then he began to close his eyes and meditate, and began to refine the strength in his body. The Blackwater Ghost is recovering from his injuries, so he can't just sit still. In this way, 3 days passed in a flash, and Monk also found the Blackwater Ghost. Seeing the arrival of Monk, the Blackwater Ghost reluctantly took out a black stone from his pocket. Then put it into the mouth. After the black stone entered his body, the Blackwater Ghost's injuries were completely recovered. After seeing the Blackwater Ghost who had recovered from his injuries, Monk nodded in satisfaction, and then spoke to the Blackwater Ghost. Since you are ready, then we don't need to talk anymore, let's set off immediately. W. After saying this, Monk patted Blackwater Ghost on the shoulder, and then walked out of the mountain first. After hearing Monk's words, the Blackwater Ghost hurriedly followed behind Monk, moving forward quickly. Soon, the two also left the mountain range, and then rushed towards the area where the Wanshong brothers were. At this time, the Wanshong brothers are preparing to absorb Hailong's soul. Advertisement. Because the power of the Sea Dragon's soul is a bit strong, and the two of them don't quite match the Sea Dragon's soul. Therefore, before absorbing the Sea Dragon's soul, one must be fully prepared, otherwise, both of them will explode and die. And just after they made all the preparations, they suddenly found that Monk and the Blackwater Ghost had arrived. The four of them had fought each other before, so the Wanshong brothers recognized Monk and Blackwater Ghost immediately. At this time, the Wanzhong brothers also spoke coldly to Monk and Haishwidi with one voice. Are you here to die? After saying this, the Wanshong brothers looked at Monk and Haishwidi, waiting for their answer. After hearing the question from the Wanshong brothers, the Blackwater Ghost also laughed arrogantly twice. If you are sensible, you should quickly hand over Hailong's soul. You two bastards are really brazen. If you don't want to die, just get the hell out of here. Now that both of us have recovered our strength, we are no longer afraid of you. Quote. Then the Wanzhong brothers said to Monk and Haishwidi in a cold voice. Monk also nodded slightly at this time. Advertisement. After saying this, Monk and Haishwidi looked at the Wanzhong brothers together, waiting for the Wanzhong brothers to respond. In their view, Monk and Haishwidi are trash. If this is the case, then the two of them might as well jump off the cliff and commit suicide. Zero seeking flowers. If not, the two of you will just have a dead end. Quote. That's right, with the combined efforts of the two of us, we can kill all of you. That's why you two trash can get a bargain. It seems that if you don't kill the two of you two really think that you are invincible. You two arrogant guys, you really don't know what to say. Then he taunted the Wanshong brothers. I ran away in embarrassment the last time, come back this time, can I become extremely powerful? The last time, it was mainly because I had a fight with Monk and I lost some strength. 27. The Wanshong brothers seemed to have not heard what Monk and Blackwater Ghost had said. Advertisement. Chapter 502 The opponent is superior. Advertisement. If not, the two of us will tear your bones apart and smash your bones into ashes. After saying these words, he also laughed arrogantly. Hearing the laughter of the Wanzhong brothers, Monk and Haishwidi also looked at each other. At this time, the Blackwater Ghost also spoke softly to Monk. Monk, what are we going to do next? Monk also said with a sneer after hearing the Blackwater Ghost's question, September 20th. What else can I do? Of course, go and kill the Wanshong brothers. It would be a little too stupid for us to keep our hands now. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Haishwidi also understood Monk's thoughts. Then he rushed forward immediately and launched an attack on the Wanshong brothers. Monk followed closely behind. Although there was some time difference between the two when they acted. But they attacked in no particular order, and they all stabbed at the Wanshong brothers. After the Wanshong brothers saw how rampant Monk and Haishwidi were, the two of them were also extremely angry. Advertisement. Punching together and roaring together, I have to say that the strength of these two people is really strong. But when fighting Monk and Blackwater Ghost, they were a bit stretched. They are okay in 2-on-1, but 2-on-2 shows a disadvantage. Seeing that the Wanshong brothers were at a disadvantage there, both Monk and Haishwidi showed happy smiles. Because in their view, the next two people have a chance to get Hailong's soul into their hands. The Wanshong brothers were fighting each other, and they also felt that something was not right. If he waits for others to continue fighting, he is really likely to be killed by Monk and the Blackwater Ghost. Then the Wanshong brothers spoke loudly to Monk and Haishwidi. You two are merciful, I am willing to hand over Hailong's soul. Monk and Haishwidi turned a deaf ear to the shouts of the Wanshong brothers. He thought he could keep the Wanshong brothers here. But it's a pity that Monk and Haishwidi didn't seem to see the sea dragon's soul. Seeing the fog of blood in front of him, Monk also shook his head helplessly. The two of them also looked at each other, and then threw Hailonghan fiercely. 0. Advertisement. Seeing that Haishwidi and Monk still didn't hold back, the Wanshong brothers felt a little helpless. But they still didn't listen, so there was no other way but to kill them all. But I didn't expect the other party to be more skilled and escape so quickly. Just keep aiming at the Wanshong brothers and launch an attack on the Wanshong brothers. And at this moment, Monk's gaze shifted to the Blackwater Ghost. He found that the Blackwater Ghost was sneaking 4.7, and rushed towards the location of Hailonghan. Monk also snorted coldly, and then spoke to the Blackwater Ghost. These two people really had no choice, and they could only use secret techniques to escape here. In their opinion, the Wanshong twin brothers are too annoying. After looking at Monk in embarrassment, he scratched the back of his head and said to Monk with some embarrassment. Blackwater Ghost, what are you doing? After hearing Monk's words, the Blackwater Ghost also turned his head slowly. From their point of view, as long as Hailonghan flies out, Monk and others will definitely follow Hailonghan. Earlier, the two of them had already explained their words to the two big fools in front of them. Advertisement. Chapter 503 continue to show off. Advertisement. I just want to check if this sea dragon soul is real. If the Wanshong brothers lie to us, then we have nothing to say. Quote. Hearing the defense of the Blackwater Ghost, Monk also snorted coldly, and didn't care about it anymore. Immediately stepped forward and grabbed Hailong's soul in his hands. Then he said to Hailonghan in a cold voice. The two of us should come according to the agreement, and don't think about any other moths. After saying this, Monk walked slowly outside. Seeing that Monk took the sea dragon soul away, the Blackwater Ghost also gritted his teeth, and followed Monk closely. He felt a little pity. In his opinion, this sea dragon soul should be his east and west. But he didn't expect Monk to take away the sea dragon soul. He thought he had to seek justice from Monk. After making up his mind, he followed closely behind Monk. Soon, Monk and Haishwidi came to an open space. After stopping here, Monk slowly turned his head and said to the Blackwater Ghost in a cold voice. Okay, now let's fight. Advertisement. We didn't use much strength just now, I believe you must have sufficient strength. Then I don't have to hold back. Quote. After saying this, Monk rushed forward quickly. The huge machete in his hand was thrown out of his hand in an instant, and flew towards Hailonghan. Hailonghan hurriedly dodged, and then the claws spread out from his hands. Then the two weapons collided fiercely, and the machete also flew backwards quickly. Monk stretched out his hand to catch it, and then grabbed the machete back to the servant. Taking advantage of the momentum, the whole person turned around, and then quickly ran towards the Blackwater Ghost. The Blackwater Ghost also showed a very nervous expression when he saw Monk so ferocious. He felt that this guy, Monk, was really unreasonable. Even if the machete left a huge gash on his neck, he still didn't back down. Because the Blackwater Ghost quickly bowed his head as if he was turning a blind eye. Then he chopped the huge machete on the shoulder of the Blackwater Ghost, and immediately removed one shoulder of the Blackwater Ghost. When he kept resisting, Monk's machete was already on his neck. Advertisement. Monk was shocked by 867 by the Blackwater Ghost's attitude of treating death like home. Monk took this opportunity to stop. Don't underestimate the second of the duel between masters. There is no way for me to find a chance to breathe from the opponent's continuous attacks. And when this guy fights, his moves are very well connected. When Monk wanted to continue attacking the Blackwater Ghost, the Blackwater Ghost began to gain the upper hand. But what happened next was beyond Monk's expectation. Because in his opinion, the Blackwater Ghost is even more arrogant. It is also impossible to continue to show off when the knife is pressed on the neck. If it weren't for Monk's quick reaction, his head might have been flying high. After Monk received the claw of the Blackwater Ghost, he slashed down with a machete. When confronting a master, even if it is a blink of an eye, life will be in danger. Others will have a chance to breathe if they fight, but once this guy Monk fights, he will never die. But although Monk was a little shocked, he reacted within a second. Advertisement. Chapter 504. do you want to follow me back to the Ghost Gate gang? Advertisement. Monk took this opportunity without holding back, and then put the machete on the neck of the Black Water Ghost again. This time Monk also crushed the machete to death. As long as the Black Water Ghost dares to move, half of his neck will be broken. This time the Black Water Ghost didn't dare to move anymore, even though he gritted his teeth in pain, he still didn't dare to move. Monk also took a deep breath at this time, and then said coldly to the Black Water Ghost. Admit defeat now, I can save your life. But if you play tricks again, I will cut off all your limbs and make you a useless person. Quote. After finishing these words, Monk retracted the machete, and then walked towards the distance with the Sea Dragon's soul. The Black Water Ghost also sat powerlessly on the ground. He didn't expect that all the hard work he had done before would be in vain in Monk's hands. This made him really unbelievable. At this time, he had lost any hope, and felt that the future was gloomy. Advertisement. After walking a certain distance, Monk also turned his head to take a look. When he saw the Black Water Ghost sitting there, looking at the sky stupidly, Monk was also a little helpless. Then he walked back in front of the Black Water Ghost, and said to the Black Water Ghost. Hey, there's no need to be so discouraged, it's just the soul of Hai Long. In addition to the Sea Dragon's soul, there are other treasures. Single quote. After saying this, Monk carefully looked at the expression of the Black Water Ghost. Monk felt a little helpless when he found that the Black Water Ghost still looked stupid. After he considered his words, he spoke again to the Black Water Ghost. Backquote. Since you have talked about this, I have no way to refuse, and there is no reason to refuse. How about thinking about it? After hearing what Monk said, the Black Water Ghost hesitated for a moment, and then spoke to Monk. Just say you agree or disagree, do you want to go back to the Ghost Gate gang with me? I will provide you with plenty of water, and I will also give you other powers to improve your strength. Advertisement. Don't be shocked, after I bring this arm back, I will arrange for someone to attach it to you. Hearing what Monk said, Haishwigi also moved his head slowly, and said to Monk in disbelief. After it is connected, although it is not very flexible to use, it is at least better than nothing. How about this, you come back to the Ghost Gate gang with me, and then you will work under my hands. After saying this, Monk waited for the answer from the Black Water Ghost. I treated you like that before, but you are still going to help me, do you have a brain problem? After saying this, he supported the ground with his remaining arm and slowly stood up. Lee's Monk waved his right hand lightly when he saw this, and the broken arm of the Black Water Ghost flew into Monk's hand. Then Monk spoke to the Black Water Ghost under the shocked eyes of the Black Water Ghost. You shot at me, and I took off one of your arms, which is fair. And this arm is only the left arm, and it doesn't affect your fighting skills. Quote. Alright, stop blah blah blah, manly man, do things neatly. Monk also spoke to the Black Water Ghost angrily when he heard the Black Water Ghost's inquiry. Anyway, I am homeless, so I will follow you to the Ghost Gate gang. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 505. The revenge has been solved. Advertisement. After finishing these words, Monk walked into the distance. After hearing what Monk said, the Black Water Ghost thought about what Monk had just said to him. Then he didn't dare to stay, and hurriedly followed behind Monk, rushing forward. After several days of walking, the two finally returned to the Ghost Gate gang. After returning to the Ghost Gate gang, both of them were in a panic, and Monk was greeted by the Venerable Soul. After seeing Monk's embarrassment, Venerable Soul also showed a shocked expression. He didn't expect that when Monk left, he was still extremely energetic, but when he came back, he was so sluggish. This is really unbelievable. Then he hurriedly came to Monk and asked Monk. Monk, what's wrong with you? Oh, what happened to you that caused you to be in such a mess? Quote. After saying this sentence, Monk didn't answer, but pointed to God behind him. Venerable Soul also looked back in the direction of Monk's finger, and then he saw a Black Water Ghost with only one arm. Advertisement. The moment he saw the Black Water Ghost, Venerable Shenhun frowned instantly. He felt that this guy might be the culprit that made Monk extremely bad. Then he drew out his weapon involuntarily, and wanted to attack the Black Water Ghost. Monk made a move when he saw that Venerable Shensoul disagreed with him, and he dared to stand in front of the Black Water Ghost. Then he said helplessly to Venerable Shenhun. Why are you attacking him? Hearing Monk's inquiry, Venerable Soul also said in a cold voice. You don't need to guess, it must be this guy who has played against you. Next, you rest assured, you step back and let me fight with it. We'll definitely get his head to apologize to you. Quote. After saying this, he rushed forward quickly. Monk was also extremely helpless about this, and the two fingers he stretched out clamped the long sword stabbed out by Venerable Soul. Venerable Divine Soul also instinctively wanted to explode his strength and cut off Monk's fingers. But after he reacted, he also hurriedly withdrew his strength into his body, let go of his baby F hand and took 2 steps back. Advertisement. After seeing the impulsiveness of the Venerable Soul, Monk said helplessly to the Venerable Soul. Don't get me wrong, the feud between the two of us has been resolved. If you killed him before, I would still support him, but not now. Next he will join our Ghost Gate gang, you must get along well with him and don't conflict with this guy. After finishing these words, Monk patted Venerable Soul on the shoulder. Turning your head away, you can go to your own residence to rest. Watching Monk leave, Venerable Shenhun helplessly turned his head to look at the Black Water Ghost. Then he asked the Black Water Ghost. Hey, Did you guys shoot Monk for no reason before? After hearing Venerable Shensol's question, Haishui Ghost also hurriedly said. You misunderstood, I didn't shoot Monk for no reason in the past. And after that, I am also ready to cooperate with Monk. Quote. After the cooperation, he has also got the Sea Dragon soul in his hands. I wanted to leave, but he stopped me and told me to come to hell, so we came here for 10 days. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 506 Find a way to cure the right hand. Advertisement. After hearing the words of the Blackwater Ghost, Venerable Shenhun also hesitated for a moment, and then spoke to the Blackwater Ghost. Okay, let's just trust you, I will be responsible for many things of the Ghost Gate Gang. If there is anything you don't understand, you can tell me, and I will do my best to help you. Quote. After finishing these words, Venerable Soul turned and left. Watching the departure of the Venerable Soul, the Blackwater Ghost also started to make tools. In his opinion, he should first make a tool that can replace the left hand. Otherwise, it would be too inconvenient. And Monk also brought the severed arm of the Blackwater Ghost to the Benyao King. After Benyao King saw Monk coming in front of him holding an arm, he seemed to ask Monk. Do you want me to cook this arm into a dish? I have to say that your taste is really heavy. Quote. After this sentence was finished, the Benyao King burst out laughing. Monk rolled his eyes for no reason after hearing Ben Bird King's words. Then he said helplessly to Ben Bird King. Advertisement. This arm is the arm of my new recruit. Because I didn't hold my hand when I was fighting with him, I took off his arm. Now I am ready to come to you for help. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at Dianguang seriously. After hearing what Monk said, King Benyao also understood what Monk meant. Then he said helplessly to Monk. Lord Monk, Dao is a little too strong. This arm has already been removed, how can I think of a way to heal it, can it be sealed with glue? Hearing the words of King Benyao, Monk was helpless. Then, with a serious face, he asked again to the Benyao King. There is really no way on your side, can you cure it? After saying this, Monk looked at Ben Bird King seriously, waiting for Ben Bird King's answer. Master Monk, if I'm right, I can make a robotic prosthetic here. But, even if his arm is connected, it can't be used normally. It's better to just replace him with a prosthetic, that would be more convenient. Quote. Advertisement. Relying on the power of prosthetic limbs to fight against the enemy. Quote. Hearing Monk's words, Dianguang's smile also froze on his face. Dianguang also nodded heavily, and then said to Monk with an excited face. Since you're so categorical, can you make that many prosthetics? After pondering for a while, Dianguang said to Monk helplessly. Zero looking for flowers. After hearing Ben Bird King's words, Monk couldn't help frowning and looking at Ben Bird King. Monk nodded slightly when he heard the words, and then asked a very crucial question. Then he asked Ben Bird King. To be honest, I was able to handle the opponent's arm properly. After he scratched the back of his head, he also said you without being sure. After finishing this sentence, he waited for Ben Bird King's explanation. What do you mean by that? Is it a robotic prosthesis? Zero. And other powerful prosthetics, as long as the Blackwater Ghost wants to fight, he can change the prosthetics at will. Advertisement. Chapter 507. Activating the nerves. Advertisement. Give me time, I might make them. After saying this, he smiled awkwardly. After Monk saw Ben Bird King's expression, he was also extremely helpless. Then he spoke to Ben Bird King. You guys are really helpless. After rambling on and on for a long time, in the end, there was no way to guarantee that the prosthesis would be made. Aren't you making me, Zero, in vain? Forget it, don't think about it here. Quickly connect this arm back to the Blackwater Ghost, don't care if it's stiff or not, as long as it works. After saying this, Monk patted Ben Bird King on the shoulder, then turned around and left. Dianguang sighed helplessly after watching Monk leave. Then he picked up the broken arm of the Blackwater Ghost, and he also studied it carefully. He kept stimulating the broken arm with his secret technique, trying to restore the nerves in the broken arm again. Make sure that this severed arm is next, connected to the shoulder of the Blackwater Ghost. Advertisement. After he activated the nerves on the severed arm of the Blackwater Ghost, he hurriedly found the Blackwater Ghost. The Blackwater Ghost saw Dianguang holding his arms and running there non-stop. The Blackwater Ghost also felt strange for a while. Just when he was in a daze, Dianguang also spoke to the Blackwater Ghost. Try it quickly and see if you can connect. After saying this, King Benyao couldn't help but press the severed arm on the shoulder of the Blackwater Ghost. The Blackwater Ghost also looked at Dianguang suspiciously, not knowing what Dianguang was doing. Seeing that the broken arm and the arm could not be connected together, Dianguang also pondered. He sensed that something was wrong. I clearly activated the nerves on the severed arm, all I needed was contact with the Blackwater Ghost's arm. Then use the secret technique to add the connection, and you can connect together. At that time, apply the ointment and recuperate for a year or so, and the Blackwater Ghost's arm will definitely be healed. But why is there no response from the other party now? At this moment, the Blackwater Ghost asked Dianguang helplessly. Advertisement. The arms are all broken, just leaning together like this, how can it recover? Don't try it. 0 inches. After saying this, he also put his severed arm aside. After hearing what the Blackwater Ghost said, Dianguang also frowned, and said in doubt. It shouldn't be, I have clearly activated the nerves of the severed arm. Logically speaking, after your arms and shoulders are in contact, they will definitely close together. But why still can't connect? Isn't it because your arm failed? After hearing what Dianguang said, the black water ghost couldn't help rolling his eyes. Then he said helplessly to Ben Bird King. It's my own arm, how could I not recognize him? Did you make a mistake halfway through 3.2? Speaking of this, he also suddenly thought of a question, and then he spoke to Ben Bird King. You mean to say that the nerves in your to-be broken arm have been activated? The Beniao King nodded slightly when he heard the words, and the black water ghost spoke to the Beniao King again. Then have you ever thought that you haven't restored the nerves in my shoulders? Advertisement. Chapter 508. Taking his arm back. Advertisement. The nerves in one place have been restored, but the nerves in the other place have not, and it is impossible for them to be connected together. Hearing the reminder from the black water ghost, Dianguang also slapped his forehead suddenly, and then spoke to the black water ghost. Look at my brain, it doesn't work all of a sudden. It would be a bit bad if Master Monk knew about this mistake. Just wait, I'll sort it out for you. Quote. After saying this, he approached the black water ghost. In the unbelievable eyes of the black water ghost, Dianguang's hand was also slapped hard on the place where the black water ghost's arm was broken. Seeing that the other party's face turned pale in pain, Dianguang also gloated and said, 10 inches, you bear with it first, don't panic too much, this kind of pain is normal. If it doesn't hurt, the nerves can't be activated, so just bear with it, just bear with it. Quote. After finishing these words, he also patted the black water ghost's arm one after another. The black water ghost almost passed out at this moment. If he had known that Ben Bird King was such a cure, he would have died long ago. Advertisement. Even if one arm is broken all the time, I don't want to be punished like this. He has now regarded Ben Bird King's help as punishment. Ben Bird King still didn't stop here, seeing that the nerves on the opponent's shoulders still haven't recovered. He was still slapping there, and the black water ghost finally couldn't bear it anymore, and suddenly let out a loud cry, which resounded through the sky. After hearing the shout, Monk also came to the room of the Ben Bird King in doubt. After opening the door of Dianguang's room, he saw a black water ghost with a pale face. Then Monk asked Ben Bird King suspiciously. Ben Bird King, what are you doing? How did you make the black water ghost look like this? After finishing this sentence, Monk began to wait for Ben Bird King's answer. After hearing Monk's voice, Beniao King turned his head hastily, and replied to Monk. I'm activating the nerve at the broken shoulder of Blackwater Ghost, and then I can put his arm back together. 27. Monk nodded slightly after hearing Ben Bird King's words. After giving a thumbs up to the Beniao King, he turned and left. Advertisement. The Blackwater Ghost also had a terrified expression, watching Monk leave. He thought that Monk would help them by asking questions, but unexpectedly, Monk asked a few perfunctory questions and left. This made him a little unexpected. And Monk, who was constantly complained by him, also showed a gloating smile after he walked out of Ben Bird King's room. He didn't know what happened just now, he was clearly pretending. The main purpose is to see the Haishui 530 ghost out of embarrassment. If Monk really saw the miserable appearance of the Blackwater Ghost, it was really funny. Then Monk left here happily. After being rescued by King Beniao, the Blackwater Ghost has almost recovered from his injuries. He has nothing to do with Monk, he often chats, does chores, does housework and so on. Sensing that the Blackwater Ghost is so hardworking and extremely loyal, Monk is also ready to test the Blackwater Ghost. Let's see if the Blackwater Ghost is feasible. If he could be trusted, then he would not be stingy, and would definitely hand over the supreme energy that he had cherished for a long time to the Blackwater Ghost. Advertisement. Chapter 509. Giving Supreme Energy. Advertisement. But this idea also stayed in his mind for a second before it was deleted by them. But after waiting for a few days, Monk felt that it was better to give the highest energy to the Blackwater Ghost. This guy, Blackwater Ghost, has been quite honest recently, so he doesn't need to be too embarrassing. After he made up his mind, Monk took the initiative to find the Blackwater Ghost. After the Blackwater Ghost noticed the arrival of Monk, he was also extremely suspicious. He really didn't understand why Monk came here looking for him. Then he also turned to Monk searchingly, and said, Master Monk, I don't know why you came to me suddenly. After saying this, the Blackwater Ghost looked at Monk curiously, waiting for Monk's answer. In the last time, the Blackwater Ghost was also persuaded by the Beniao King, and completely surrendered to Monk. So he is called Monk at this time, and there is no problem being Master Monk. After hearing what the Blackwater Ghost said, Monk also smiled, and then said to the Blackwater Ghost. I came here to give you something. Advertisement. As long as you become my subordinate, you will more or less get some relatively good treasures, and you are no exception. And because you have been pursuing powerful strength recently, I am going to hand over the highest energy to you for you to absorb. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, the Blackwater Ghost couldn't help but widen his eyes. Then he spoke forcefully to Monk. Master Monk, are you sure you want to hand over the supreme energy to me? This supreme energy is not easy to obtain. I have also heard of the highest energy from the Ben Bird King and the Soul Venerable. Quote. When they improved their strength, they also obtained supreme energy. But that's when they get some merit, you reward them. Quote. And I didn't do anything, how could I deserve the highest energy? You still have to think about it before making a decision, and don't make things unfair. Otherwise, it is likely to attract the dissatisfaction of Ben Bird King and Venerable Soul. After hearing what the Black Water Ghost said, Monk waved his hand indifferently, and then spoke to the Black Water Ghost. Advertisement. Don't worry, the two of them will never have any dissatisfaction. I have communicated with them before, and they also said that they recognize you very much. So you just put your heart in your stomach, and you come with me, and I will give you the highest energy. Quote. After saying this, Monk led the way ahead, while the Black Water Ghost followed closely behind Monk. In such a hurry, the two came to the front of a warehouse. After arriving here, Monk spoke to the strong man of the Ghost Gate gang. Quote. Backquote, you open the lock, and I will take him in. After hearing Monk's words, the strong man of the Gimen gang, Wang Chenjiao, also nodded heavily. Then he hurriedly unlocked the warehouse, and pushed the iron door open. Monk and Haishuigi just walked into the warehouse. After arriving at the warehouse, Monk also walked straight in one direction. After arriving there, he took out a bottle containing orange-yellow energy. I saw the bottle as thin as an arm, and the energy body contained in the bottle, which was only the size of a thumb cap. Advertisement. Chapter 510 Retreat to improve strength. Advertisement. The Black Water Ghost also showed a strange expression. As if he sensed the expression of the Black Water Ghost, Monk also spoke to the Black Water Ghost. Don't dislike the low energy. As long as you can absorb it, then your strength can skyrocket and improve a lot. But if he rejects you, then sorry, you may not be suitable to absorb him. So you don't have to dislike him now, maybe he still dislikes you. Quote. After saying this, Monk crushed the bottle. The yellow energy body, which was the size of a thumb cap, was also held by Monk. Then it was photographed by Monk in the hands of the Black Water Ghost. At this time, the Black Water Ghost was also stunned for a moment, and then tightened his grip on the highest energy, for fear that the highest energy would escape. After seeing the action of the Black Water Ghost, Monk also smiled, and then said to the Black Water Ghost. Don't be so nervous, even the Supreme Energy is a little wise. He is not smart enough to know how to escape. Next, you should find a quiet place and carry out refining. Advertisement. When will the high-quality energy be refined, and then come out at that time? Quote. If you think your strength hasn't improved, don't come out. Because at that time, it shows that you have not completely refined the Supreme Energy. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, the Black Water Ghost nodded heavily. Then, under Monk's repeated Bafi instructions, he found a secluded place and began refining to high energy. Monk saw the Black Water Ghost leave, and also took the Sea Dragon Soul out of his storage space. After watching for a while, he returned to his practice room. After sitting there cross-legged, Monk swallowed the Sea Dragon Soul into his stomach. From Monk's point of view, the Sea Dragon Soul has little connection with him. It is already very good to be able to refine the Sea Dragon Soul. Even if you can't get it, there is no problem with some characteristics of controlling water flow in the soul of Heilong. Just like that, Monk also closed his eyes, and began to speak the energy emanating from the Sea Dragon's soul. As long as you can penetrate the energies emanating from Heilong's soul, then he can relax a bit when refining the Sea Dragon's soul next. Advertisement. There is even a high chance of being able to obtain the characteristic of the Sea Dragon soul that can control water flow. In this way, Monk began to close the deadlock. During this period, all the affairs of the Ghost Gate gang were managed by the Ben Bird King and the Venerable Soul. Monk and Black Water Ghost suddenly announced retreat, and they both retreated for such a long time. This made Venerable Shenhun and Dianguang murmur. At this time, the Beniao King also asked with Venerable Shensoul. Honorable Soul, do you think this could be a conspiracy by the Black Water Ghost? Could this guy hold a grudge against Lord Monk before? Then designed a trap, waiting for Master Monk to jump. Quote. Since Master Monk convinced him, he didn't doubt him anymore, so he fell for it. Otherwise, there is no way to explain it. These two people will retreat together, and they will retreat together for such a long time. Even if it is to increase the strength, or even increase the strength by a large amount, this situation will not happen. Quote. After saying this, King Beniao looked at Venerable Soul seriously, waiting for Venerable Soul's answer. Venerable Shenhun also looked helplessly at Beniaowang. He felt that Beniaoju's mind was too big. Advertisement. Chapter 511 Physical strength has increased. Advertisement. It is really shocking that so many questions have been speculated because of this matter. Sensing that Venerable Spirit Soul was silent, Ben Bird King also spoke softly. As what I just said right. Hearing the words of King Beniao, Venerable Soul also shook his head hastily. He knew that if he didn't shake his head again, indicating that the other party's question was wrong, then this guy might make progress. It would be a bit bad to start thinking about other unrealistic questions. Seeing Venerable Shenhun shaking his head, King Beniao was also puzzled, and then asked Venerable Shenhun. Then why are you shaking your head? Don't you know the truth of the matter? After saying these words, he looked expectantly at Venerable Soul, waiting for Venerable Soul's answer. Venerable Shenhun also said helplessly at this moment. You don't have to think about it here, I also investigated it before. Monk and Black Water Ghost are both practicing in their own training rooms. They are indeed retreating, so you shouldn't use your own ideas there and speculate wildly. After hearing the words of Venerable Shenhun, the Black Water Ghost also spoke unconvinced. Advertisement. Isn't it because I'm worried about Master Monk? That's why I said such things. Alright, I won't talk to you anymore, you guys are very boring. Quote. After saying this, King Wei turned around and left. After hearing the words of the Benyao King, the Black Water Ghost also spread his hands helplessly. Just after Ben Bird King walked a certain distance, he also saw the person in front of him. Then the Benyao King quickened his pace and came to the side of the Black Water Ghost. He asked the Black Water Ghost, "How much has the strength improved?" After finishing these words, he waited for the answer from the Black Water Ghost. After hearing the inquiry from the Benyao King, the Black Water Ghost said to the Benyao King helplessly, "The strength has not improved much, but the physique has become stronger." The Benyao King covered his hands and began to scream. "I told you just now that my physical strength has improved." He didn't expect that the Black Water Ghost's body was as hard as an iron lump at this time, so hard. Advertisement. Zero looking for flowers. The Black Water Ghost is also preparing to bid farewell to Dianguang and leave here. It's not too late for you to talk to Master Monk after he's out of customs. Quote. After hearing what the other party said, Dianguang also had malicious intentions, and punched the Black Water Ghost. "If you still don't believe it, you have to give it a try, you've suffered a lot now." Then the Black Water Ghost spoke to Dianguang. The Benyao King also shook his head, and then spoke to the Black Water Ghost. After hearing Dianguang's words, Haishwigi nodded lightly, turned around and left Chi. "Ben Bird King, do you know what Master Monk is doing? I want to thank you." As if he didn't feel the pain, the Black Water Ghost looked at Dianguang expressionlessly. But he also suddenly thought of something, and then asked the Bird King. Oh. After he finished his sentence, he looked at Ben Bird King seriously. "Master Monk is also retreating, I advise you not to bother Mr. Monk." After hearing what the other party said, the Black Water Ghost also sighed helplessly. Advertisement. Chapter 512 How much can the strength be improved? Advertisement. Just like that, the Ghost Gate Gang, which was bustling just now, became quiet all of a sudden. Another 10 days passed before Monk stumbled out of his practice room. In fact, he had already absorbed Hailong's soul and revived it 5 days ago. But he wanted to completely stabilize the restless power in his body. After he stabilized all those strengths, he walked out of his practice room. 29 cuts. After Monk came out, whether it was the Black Water Ghost or the Ben Bird King, these people all appeared in front of Monk. Monk also didn't expect that these people would be so exaggerated after he just closed it for a while. Then Monk said helplessly to several people, "If you have anything to say, just talk about it, why don't you just stand there and say nothing?" And he looked at me with those straight eyes, which made me flustered. Quote. After saying this, Monk glanced at the people in front of him. Seeing Monk's bewildered expression, Venerable Soul also replied to Monk. Advertisement. Monk, these two guys want to ask, your strength has improved. They also want to see how much their strength can be improved after absorbing the power of Hailong's soul. Quote. After Monk heard these words of Venerable Soul, he suddenly realized. Then he smiled and said to the few people in front of him. If you're so curious, you can watch it after I eat some food. Then I will show you a demonstration. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Dianguang turned around and left immediately. He went to prepare food for Monk. Monk didn't understand why Ben Bird King left, but he didn't care too much. After chatting with Venerable Soul and Black Water Ghost for a while, Monk was ready to eat food. But just after taking a few steps, Dianguang came to Monk with a big grin and a food plate. Monk also couldn't help raising his eyebrows, and looked at the food in Dianguang's hands. Then he reluctantly took it and ate it up. After eating and drinking enough, Monk slowly got up, and then spoke to the people in front of him. Advertisement. Okay, these guys are all ready, so let's not delay any longer. 0. Come with me now. Quote. After saying this, Monk led the way ahead. Seeing that Monk had acted, Venerable Soul, Black Water Ghost and others did not hesitate at all. He hurriedly followed behind Monk, and then rushed forward. After traveling for a certain distance, Monk also brought the Black Water Ghost and Ben Bird King to the front of the ocean. Seeing the magnificent sea, Haishwigi, Dianguang and others were also puzzled. They also don't understand why Monk brought them here. Could it be that Monk can control the sea water? Just when they were thinking like this, Monk only slightly raised his hand, and the sea water began to gather towards the sky. However, after 1.7, according to Monk's command, it turned into handwriting one after another, which stunned both Haishwigi and Dianguang. Then they gave Monk a thumbs up together, feeling that Monk is really amazing. When Monk used his new power to experiment there, he turned his head. He said to Dianguang and Haishwigi who were beside him. Advertisement. Chapter 513. Congratulations to Monk. Advertisement. How is it? The power of this move is not bad. Next time, if I fight against those strong people who eat devil fruit, I will be able to attack and win. Use these sea water to defeat them. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Haishwigi, Venerable Soul and others also nodded repeatedly. Afterwards, everyone followed Monk back to the Ghost Gate Gang. After everyone returned to the Ghost Gate Gang, the people from New World actually came to the Ghost Gate Gang. Monk had no choice but to get up to greet him, and he couldn't do without. Because he is the leader of the Ghost Gang, when Monk got angry and came to the front of the New World powerhouses. I also waited for these people to speak first, and wanted to hear what these guys wanted to do. If he wanted to make trouble, then Monk would definitely kill them all in an instant. But beyond Monk's expectations, these new century powerhouses came to Monk, and they were going to congratulate Monk. This made Monk stunned for a moment. He couldn't understand why these people in front of him should congratulate himself. I have nothing to congratulate here. Advertisement. Then Monk asked New World, the leading strong man. I don't know why you came to congratulate me. I have nothing to congratulate. Quote. After saying this, they also looked at each other curiously, waiting for the other's answer. After hearing Monk's words, the powerhouses of New World also burst out laughing. Then the leading New World expert also spoke to Monk. We learned from Venerable Divine Soul that you obtained the Sea Dragon Soul and completely refined it, thereby improving the strength. That's why we came here. Oh, by the way, there is also the Black Water Ghost. I heard that the Black Water Ghost has become extremely powerful after receiving the supreme energy from you. The combination of these two happy events is worth celebrating, so we are here to celebrate you. Quote. After hearing what the other party said, Monk suddenly realized. Then he turned his head and looked helplessly at Venerable Soul. Then began to greet these New World powerhouses and entered the Ghost Gate Gang. Advertisement. These New World powerhouses each put their gifts in front of Monk, and then prepared to leave. But Monk can't let them go away empty-handed, and come here with gifts. He didn't even eat or drink, and left in such a hurry. If this matter is going to be spread, outsiders will definitely think that their ghost gang does not have any etiquette. That would be a little inappropriate. So Monk arranged for Venerable Soul, Ben Bird King and others to receive them, these New World powerhouses. Then let them stay in the Ghost Gate Gang for a few more days, and leave some food and drink expenses to Venerable Soul. Who let the Venerable Soul stay there and have nothing to do, and make this matter happen? If it wasn't for the Venerable Soul, there wouldn't be such trouble for me and others. Venerable Soul felt that it was a little unreasonable for Monk to push everything to him. Then he found Monk in a hurry. After meeting Monk, he also spoke to Monk. Monk, this matter should be handled by you, why do you push everything to me? Advertisement. Chapter 514 became a hands-off shopkeeper. Advertisement. If these things are all handled by me, then the other strong people will think that I am the manager here. In that case, something would be wrong. Quote. After hearing these words from Venerable Soul, Monk also spoke to Venerable Soul angrily. I don't care what they think. Anyway, you will take good care of the food and drink expenses of these New World powerhouses. Who told you to find trouble for nothing, and spread the matter of my improvement of strength? Since you recruited them, it's up to you to take care of them. Quote. And I want to remind you that this matter is only allowed to be done once, and if you dare to do it next time, get out of here. I will not welcome you again, and you are not qualified to stay in the Ghost Gate Gang any longer. Quote. Hearing what Monk said, Venerable Shenhun immediately widened his eyes and asked Monk back in shock. Isn't it good for me to spread the news of your strength improvement? In this way, it will be able to frighten many Xiao. Quote. After hearing the words of Venerable Shenhun, Monk also said in a cold voice. Don't you know how to make a lot of money with a muffled voice? Advertisement. If anything gets out, then I will be everyone's attention. Once there is any action on my side, those guys will speculate on what I'm going to do based on my actions. In that case, it will have an impact on the Ghost Gate Gang in the underwater world. Don't you just want to watch me so much, and the Ghost Gang go down? After finishing these words, Monk waited for Venerable Soul's answer. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also quickly waved his hands, and then explained to Monk. You're mistaken, I didn't think so. The reason why you tell this matter is because you want to publicize your strength. So that those Xiao dare not come to my Ghost Gang to make trouble. Quote. Monk is not prepared either, he will continue to haggle with Venerable Soul. He waved his hand towards Venerable Soul, signaling that Venerable Soul left. From Monk's point of view, there is no need for him to haggle over this matter with Venerable Soul. If you keep holding on to this matter, then you are likely to be considered a caressing person by others. Advertisement. That would be a bit bad. In this way, Monk also became a hands-off shopkeeper. The matter of receiving those New World powerhouses is all handed over to Shenhun Zuni. Venerable Shenhun also had sufferings that he couldn't tell, so he could only entertain them. Those new century powerhouses also had matters to deal with, so they left here one after another. Venerable Divine Soul also heaved a sigh of relief, after watching these New World powerhouses leave. Venerable Shenhun also made up his mind that after this, he would not spread such news indiscriminately. Regardless of the consequences of spreading news indiscriminately, Venerable Shensoul is almost tired and thin in the recent period of time. Venerable Shenhun doesn't want to go through that Wang Hao experience again, so he is also ready to listen to Monk's words. Absolutely will not publicize to the outside world the matter that the strength of oneself and others improves. After some things had settled, Venerable Shenhun was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. Just when everyone thought that the following life would definitely be extremely peaceful. The leader of the Dark Pirates also found the Blackwater Ghost tent. The Blackwater Ghost is carrying out the mission of the Ghost Gate Gang, and he doesn't know who the guy in front of him is. Advertisement. Chapter 515 Cooperate to deal with the Ghost Gang. Advertisement. Then the Blackwater Ghost was ready to give way and let the opponent pass first. After the other party has passed, it is not too late to move forward. But that guy seemed to be preparing to confront the Blackwater Ghost. The Blackwater Ghost took a step towards it, and the leader of the Dark Pirates followed. In this way, after a stalemate between the two for a while, the Blackwater Ghost was also very angry, and said to the leader of the Dark Pirate group, "I don't know who you are, why did you appear here for no reason and block my way? You answer truthfully." Quote. After saying this, the Blackwater Ghost stared at the leader of the Dark Pirates coldly. The leader of the Dark Pirates was not angry after hearing the question from the Blackwater Ghost. The Dark Pirates also smiled, and after he 833 laughed for a while, he spoke to the Blackwater Ghost. "To be honest, I came here to find you." After hearing the other party's words, the Blackwater Ghost couldn't help but twitched his eyebrows. Then he asked the leader in front of him. Advertisement. "Who are you? Just look for me. Do you know me?" The leader of the Dark Pirates was also not in a hurry, and said to the Blackwater Ghost. "Your name is Blackwater Ghost, and you are playing for Monk now, do you think I am right? And when you were in the past, you also got the highest energy from Monk. By refining the highest energy, you have improved a lot of strength, and what I said is correct, right?" After saying this, the leader of the Dark Pirates also looked at the Blackwater Ghost with a long look. At this moment, the Blackwater Ghost's expression became extremely ugly. Because he felt that the guy in front of him was investigating him, otherwise he couldn't just think about his own situation. Then he asked the leader of the Dark Pirates in a cold voice. "Who the hell are you? Why are you investigating my news?" Hearing the question from the Blackwater Ghost, the leader of the Dark Pirates also laughed twice. "If you want to deal with the Ghost Gang, just deal with the Ghost Gang, don't pull me, I won't cooperate with you." After hearing what the guy in front of him said, the Blackwater Ghost also felt that the guy was a lunatic. "I am the leader of the Dark Pirates, and I am here mainly for you, and I want to cooperate with you." Advertisement. After saying this, they also looked at the Blackwater Ghost with half a smile. "And it is also very likely that Monk's Eastgate Gang will be captured." Quote. After spreading his hands, he said helplessly. But the figure of the leader of the Dark Pirates suddenly disappeared. After saying this, the Blackwater Ghost was about to turn around and leave. "Venerable Shenhun or Dianguang are fine, so why do you insist on identifying me? I hope to reach a cooperation with you, Bod, and get a lot of gold treasures from Monk. You guy, can't you find someone else to cooperate with?" Shensoul Venerable, he maintains a cooperative relationship with Monk. The Blackwater Ghost was also extremely helpless when he saw that the other party's ghost was still there. Then he spoke to the Blackwater Ghost. "So there is no need for him to cooperate with me and take risks to fight for Monk's rights. I don't have to believe the words of a lunatic," and then the Blackwater Ghost said in a cold voice. When it reappeared, it actually stood in front of the Blackwater Ghost again. Hearing the inquiry from the Blackwater Ghost, the leader of the Dark Pirates also spoke thoughtfully. Advertisement. Chapter 516 Formal Cooperation. Advertisement. Because he already has a lot of rights on his side, and Ben Bird King was saved by Monk before. It's impossible for him to betray Monk, but you are different, you had conflicts with Monk before. Even the hatred between the two of them has reached the point where they will never die. Although I don't know why you suddenly decided to join Monk. But I'm sure, you're sure you resent Monk. Even the hatred in my heart is hatred, that's why I seek your cooperation." Quote. After finishing these words, he stared at the Blackwater Ghost with burning eyes. The Blackwater Ghost was also dumbfounded at this moment, he didn't expect that the guy in front of him would investigate himself so carefully. I have to say that 98% of what the other party said is true. The other 2% of the things are because I didn't tell the truth, which caused other people to say inaccurately. Seeing the Blackwater Ghost thinking there, the leader of the Dark Pirates also calmed down, waiting for the Blackwater Ghost to finish thinking. In that case, he can formally cooperate with the Blackwater Ghost. After thinking for a long time, the Blackwater Ghost suddenly raised his head and said to the leader of the Dark Pirates. Advertisement. It's the so-called wealth and wealth, since what you say is so convincing. Then I feel that you must be somewhat sure. That being the case, how could I still refuse? Let's cooperate next. Quote. Hearing what the Blackwater Ghost said, the leader of the Dark Pirate group was also very happy. But just when he was about to speak, the Blackwater Ghost raised his hand again. Seeing the Blackwater Ghost raised his hand, the Dark Pirates showed a noncommittal expression. He roughly guessed what the Blackwater Ghost was thinking, and then said to the Blackwater Ghost. Don't worry, you will get innumerable wealth after things are done, and you can't spend them all in this lifetime. On this basis, I, the Dark Pirates, will also reach a cooperation with you to ensure that you will spend this life in peace and worry-free. After hearing what the leader of the Dark Pirates said, he also waved his hand. After hearing what the Blackwater Ghost said, the leader of the Dark Pirates also nodded. Just look at it, I will definitely be familiar with the road, take off Monk's head, and send it to you. Because you know too much. Quote. Advertisement. Seeing the leader eating and drinking there, the crew members were also puzzled. Since I said just now that I want to cooperate with you, and you are so sincere, how dare I betray you? After the leader of the Dark Pirate group returned to the ship, he began to drink in big bowls and eat meat. And if you refuse, then we can only become enemies from now on. In this way, they were also the reason why they surrounded the leader and began to question him. The leader of the Dark Pirates also burst out laughing at this moment. Then the two parted ways after making some plans. At that time, Venerable Soul and Ben Bird King will be left to you to deal with. Quote. They didn't know what good things happened to the leader. Why did they start to be so happy after they came back? All in all, it was a joy to eat. Zero looking for flowers. Then he spoke weakly to the leader of the Dark Pirates. Zero. As long as you agree, then our cooperation will be officially reached. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 517 catches Monk's attention. Advertisement. Then he told the crew members all about the cause and effect of the incident. Many crew members learned that the leader often cooperates with Blackwater ghosts. And when he was about to kill the monk, he also showed an excited expression. They are a group of thieves who are afraid of chaos in the world. So after hearing these words from the leader, this also started to urge the leader. Let them act faster, so that the 350 Express will kill Monk and occupy the ghost gang. The leader was a little helpless when he saw the urging of the crew member, and then he spoke to everyone. What's the rush? This matter cannot be sloppy, and must be prepared for changes. We are in a hurry, but the Blackwater Ghost is not in a hurry. Quote. Only after the Blackwater Ghost has settled the matter, can we make a move. If not, our plan this time will inevitably fail. In this way, after a few reprimands from the leader, many pirates also left here. Started to deal with their own things to go. Advertisement. As for the Blackwater Ghost, after returning to the Ghost Gate gang, they also began to feel uneasy. In his opinion, Monk is very smart and very calculating. If he was a little careless, he might be caught by Monk, thus revealing his true thoughts. In that case, he will undoubtedly die. So in the past few days, he rarely appeared in front of Monk, for fear of being noticed by Monk. But it was because he was not there that he got Monk's attention. After Monk called the Venerable Soul to the front, he asked the Venerable Soul. Honorable Soul, have you seen the Blackwater Ghost recently? Why haven't I seen the Blackwater Ghost in the past few days? Did something happen to him? After saying this, Monk fell into deep thought. Since giving the Blackwater Ghost the highest energy, there are only a handful of opportunities for the two to meet. After saying this, he also looked at Monk seriously, waiting for Monk's answer. In the past few days, I have seen him every day, why can't you see him? Advertisement. In the recent period of time, he has not had much contact with the Blackwater Ghost. Since I handed over the highest energy to him, and I experimented with it. Then Monk shook his head, and then spoke to Venerable Soul. Venerable Soul was also stunned after hearing Monk's words. Then he asked Monk suspiciously. After I absorbed the power obtained from High 0.0 Dragon Soul, I haven't seen him again. Quote. So the main game doesn't have much time to do something that makes the Blackwater Ghost feel angry. Don't worry, I will test the Blackwater Ghost next. After thinking about it carefully, Monk shook his head slightly. After finishing these words, he also looked at Venerable Soul curiously, waiting for Venerable Soul's answer. I didn't do anything, and I haven't met the Blackwater Ghost in the past few days. Then he spoke to the monk in front of him. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also frowned and thought for a while. Did he hide from you on purpose? Did you do something that made him very angry in the past? 0 inches. Advertisement. Chapter 518 Focus on paying attention to the Blackwater Ghost. Advertisement. If this guy really has any malicious intentions, I will kill him instantly. Absolutely will not let his plot succeed. Quote. Hearing these words of Venerable Soul, Monk also smiled in satisfaction. He was about to organize his words to talk about this matter with Venerable Soul, but Venerable Soul suddenly thought of it. This made him feel very happy. After the two went to deal with their own affairs, the Ghost Gate gang became quiet again. On the second day, Venerable Shenhun also focused on paying attention to the Blackwater Ghost. He also discovered that in the past few days, the Blackwater Ghost was also suspicious, as if he had done something wrong. This made Venerable Shenhun even more convinced that the Blackwater Ghost might betray Monk. It is even very possible to plan the Ghost Gate gang. Out of this consideration, Venerable Shenhun also sent those strong men from the Ghost Sect gang to spy on the Blackwater Ghost. If, once the Blackwater Ghost has those extremely weird behaviors, report it to him immediately. If he doesn't have time, just tell Monk. Advertisement. In short, this matter cannot be left alone, and many strong members of the Ghost Gang also made a decisive decision and took this task. Originally, there were fewer missions outside, and even if there were, they would need to be robbed by everyone to get them. But today I suddenly heard that my Venerable Soul has issued such a task. This task is easy and requires a large number of people, and it also makes these Ghost Gang strong people like a basket. In just half an hour, all the strong members of the Ghost Gate Gang participated in this matter. All the movements of the Blackwater Ghost fell into the eyes of those powerful members of the Ghost Gang. The strong members of the Ghost Gate clan are also extremely powerful in concealing themselves. Even though the Blackwater Ghosts were much stronger than them, they still couldn't see what they were hiding. The Blackwater Ghost took some problems into account, so he hid it very well a few days ago. After Monk saw the arrival of the Venerable Soul, he also waved his hand towards the Venerable Soul. After finishing these words, he also became quiet. After learning the specific situation of the Blackwater Ghost, these ghosts helped the strong to quickly find the Venerable Soul. After finishing these words, he also gestured towards Venerable Soul. Advertisement. After knowing the specific situation, Venerable Soul also frowned and found Monk. Hearing Venerable Shensoul say this, how could he not know what the hell this Blackwater Ghost is going to do? You led me the way, I want to see what this guy has eaten so hard that he dares to prepare to deal with me. Then he told Venerable Shenhun about the specific situation. Venerable Divine Soul also nodded repeatedly after receiving Monk's signal. This made those strong ghost doorframes see some clues. Then Monk got up slowly, and said to Venerable Soul. Hearing the words of Venerable Soul, Monk became angry instantly. And it seems like bombs are being planted everywhere. Quote. It is very strange to find out what the Black Water Ghost has done in the past few days. But as time went by, he thought that everyone would definitely not doubt him, so he became unscrupulous. The group under his command carefully investigated the Black Water Ghost. Then, after arching his hands towards Monk, he spoke forcefully to Monk. He signaled Venerable Shensoul to explain the specific situation. Advertisement. Chapter 519 Monk's Killing Intent. Advertisement. After receiving the signal from Monk, Venerable Soul took a step forward to lead the way. After traveling for a while, the two of them arrived outside the residence of the Blackwater Ghost. After arriving here, Venerable Shenhun took the initiative to go forward and knocked on the door of the Blackwater Ghost. The Blackwater Ghost was in the room, and after hearing the knock on the door outside, he was also extremely puzzled. He didn't know what the situation was at this time, because why would someone knock on the door? But I made it clear that no one will see me on my side. I don't know whether the guy outside can understand human language or not. With this doubt in mind, the Blackwater Ghost came to the door and opened it. After he opened the door, he was shocked to find that both Monk and Venerable Soul were standing outside, which made him a little flustered. But in order to survive, he also restrained the panic expression on his face all at once. Sensing the change in the face of the Blackwater Ghost, Monk also showed a sneer, and then asked the Blackwater Ghost. Are you guys cooperating with someone and planning to kill me? If it is, say it, if not, then hurry up and do a good job for me. Advertisement. Don't play tricks on me. After saying this, Monk looked at the Blackwater Ghost coldly. After hearing what Monk said, the Blackwater Ghost patted his chest hastily, and then assured Monk. Master Monk, don't worry, I will never betray you. And with my strength, how can anyone cooperate with me? Quote. After saying this, he also showed a flattering expression, wanting Monk to forgive him. Monk doesn't really believe in the Blackwater Ghost at this moment. His idea is to let the Blackwater Ghost explain the recent situation. Instead of just using that one-sided words to express that he will not betray. In that case, it is really inappropriate. So Monk was ready to get to the bottom of it and asked. It's what happened specifically, not for you to show your loyalty here. Tell me quickly, who you have met recently, and what topics you have talked about with others. After finishing this sentence, Monk waited for the other party's explanation. Advertisement. Venerable Shenhun also smiled when he heard Monk's words. Then he walked to the side and folded his arms, looking at the Blackwater Ghost with a half smile. He was going to watch a play, and finally there was such a play for him to watch, how could he miss it? I noticed Monk's eyes full of murderous intent, and the playful eyes of Venerable Soul. The Blackwater Ghost was a little flustered, although he was a little flustered just now, but it wasn't too panicky. The panic at this time was caused by Monk's killing intent. He knew that if he couldn't speak clearly, he would definitely die in the hands of Monk, and that would be more harm than good. Sensing the other party's nervousness, Monk also slowly walked towards the Blackwater Ghost. After patting the Blackwater Ghost on the shoulder, he opened his mouth as jows to the Blackwater Ghost and said. Quote. You don't have to be nervous, just speak up if you have anything to say. If you didn't betray me, then I don't need to kill you. Quote. And you don't have to be nervous because of this matter, and if you really betrayed me, then you don't have to be nervous. Because, I will let you die without any pain. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, the Blackwater Ghost hurriedly defended himself and tried to get away with it. Advertisement. Chapter 520. Blackwater Ghost prepares to say nothing. Advertisement. But Venerable Shenhun sent many people to investigate the Blackwater Ghost before. Every move of the Blackwater Ghost is watched by everyone. So after the Blackwater Ghost explained a few words, Monk interrupted him. You don't need to explain there, I know what's going on with you. It seems that you are cooperating with other people to kill me, so there is no need for me to keep you. After saying this, Monk quickly tried to destroy it. Seeing Monk rushing forward, the Blackwater Ghost was also panicked. He also never thought that Monk would be so ignorant of martial arts, that he would attack himself when he talked. Seeing that the monk was about to approach, the Blackwater Ghost did not dare to delay at all, and quickly dodged to avoid the punch of the monk. Then the hook claw was summoned and installed on the arm. Then he started scratching wildly at Monk. Seeing the counterattack, Monk shook his head and let out a long sigh. When he was there before, he was planning to leave a way for the Blackwater Ghost to survive. Advertisement. But in that case, Monk would only give him a chance to survive if the Blackwater Ghost didn't fight back. But at this moment, this guy is attacking himself so crazily, which is unreasonable. If Monk doesn't react, and kill him, then where is the majesty of Monk? Out of this consideration, Monk didn't hesitate at all, and knocked the Blackwater Ghost out with 3 strikes. As soon as the Blackwater Ghost landed, he saw Monk flashing in front of him. Just when he was about to get up, the Blackwater Ghost felt a burst of pain on his face. Because he found Monk's fist and hit him hard on the face again. All of a sudden, snot and blood gushed out from the mouth and nose of the Blackwater Ghost. After wiping his hands with a handkerchief, he said coldly to the Blackwater Ghost. He is not going to reveal to Monk the situation of the Dark Pirates. After hearing what Monk said, the Blackwater Ghost also sneered and said to Monk. Monk saw the other party laughing, and said to the Blackwater Ghost in a bad mood. Seeing that dirty face, Monk also took a few steps back in disgust. Advertisement. After hearing what Monk said, the Blackwater Ghost also laughed out loud. Seeing your arrogance, I can roughly guess what's going on in your heart. You will definitely kill me after I disclose all the information to you. Quote. Tell me, who is the person who is cooperating with you? Why did the other party attack me? And even if the news of the Dark Pirates is revealed to Monk, Monk will not let him lightly. So out of various considerations, the Blackwater Ghost prepared to say nothing. 0. If you can reveal who is behind the scenes, I can give you a chance to survive. Quote. Don't lie to me anymore, how could I not understand you, a guy like you? If I confess to those members of the Dark Pirates before my death, it would be a bit impolite. But are you sure you really don't want to reveal who is behind the scenes? Because he knew that he couldn't survive, so he should provide some opportunities for his partners. After saying this, Monk just stared at the Blackwater Ghost coldly, waiting for the Blackwater Ghost's answer. Advertisement. Chapter 521, a place dedicated to punishing prisoners. Advertisement. I wouldn't be fooled into being fooled. No matter who it is today, there is no way to learn other people's news from me, and even if I die, I will not say it. Quote. Hearing what the Blackwater Ghost said, Monk also slowly turned his head to look at Venerable Soul. Then he said softly to the Venerable Soul, Honorable Soul, since this guy is so tough, I will leave it to you to deal with him. Throw it as you want, as long as it can make him confide the real information. No matter how cruel you are, I won't say anything more. Quote. After saying this, Monk turned and left. After watching Monk go away, the Venerable Soul moved closer to the Blackwater Ghost. Helplessly, he said to the Blackwater Ghost, why bother? You can survive by disclosing the real information to Monk, why not ask for death? Hearing the words of Venerable Shenhun, the Blackwater Ghost also snorted coldly. He also sneered at Venerable God and Soul very much. In his opinion, Venerable Soul is Monk's dog leg, so he didn't give Venerable Soul a good face. Advertisement. Venerable Soul saw that the other party was unwilling to talk to him, so he didn't bother himself. Then he walked forward, grabbed one arm of the Blackwater Ghost, and dragged it towards the distance. He didn't care about the wounds on the Blackwater Ghost. When everyone returned to the Ghost Gate gang together, Venerable Shensoul brought the Blackwater Ghost to a place dedicated to punishing criminals. Seeing the members there, Venerable Shenhun also spoke to the other party in a calm manner. This guy is handed over to you, use all your strengths to let him reveal the news he knows quickly. If you don't say anything, then don't let him die, and torture him a little bit until he says it. After finishing these words, Venerable Soul turned his head slowly. After patting the shoulder of the Blackwater Ghost, he spoke to the Blackwater Ghost. Next, you have to hold on, I want to continue to see your current, extremely rampant appearance. Don't beg me for mercy like a dog when you are tortured so badly. That would be out of character for you. Quote. And in that case, I will look down on you. Colleagues, you must not let me down. Advertisement. 0 looking for flowers. After finishing these words, he walked out of here slowly. The next thing to face the Blackwater Ghost is endless torture. The Blackwater Ghost also wanted to die like this without saying anything, but the other party didn't give him this chance. As long as he wants to faint, the other party will press salt on his wound, causing him to wake up in pain. 0. In this way, under the circumstances of coma and waking up again and again, the Blackwater Ghost finally couldn't survive. He was going to tell all the information he knew, just begging the other party to give him a good time. After he told all the information, he asked that Ghost Gang member to kill him. But the members of the Ghost Gang will not listen to the words of the traitor, the Blackwater Ghost. After he got the information, he hurriedly found Venerable Soul. After handing over the specific information to Venerable Soul, he began to ask Venerable Soul whether he wanted to kill the Blackwater Ghost. Venerable Shenhun also shook his head after hearing the other party's inquiry, and then spoke forcefully. Monk does not give orders, even if the Blackwater Ghost is dead, he will come back to life. Advertisement. Chapter 522, Criminals. Advertisement. After finishing these words, he dismissed the Ghost Gang member. And he himself rushed towards Monk's residence. Before entering Monk's room, Monk opened the door and waited for the Venerable Soul to enter the room. After seeing Monk's actions, Venerable Soul began to grin. Then he took a step forward and entered Monk's room. After he picked up a 267 chair and sat down familiarly, he looked at Monk with a serious face. Seeing the restrained smile, Monk looked at his spiritual venerable with a serious face, and he also asked the Divine Soul Venerable. What news came out of the investigation? You should report it to me truthfully. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also nodded heavily. After he considered his words, he spoke forcefully to Monk. From the mouth of the Blackwater Ghost, we learned that he cooperated with the Dark Pirates in the past. And these guys are ready to shoot you. Quote. Now these guys are waiting, the Blackwater Ghost has sent them a message. Advertisement. As soon as the news arrives, they will all come out to attack you. Quote. After these words were finished, Venerable Shenhun fell silent. The next decision is up to Monk to think for himself, and he has no right to control it. After listening to Venerable Soul's words, Monk also showed a playful smile, and then said in a cold voice. I never thought that these guys would be so bold. I haven't taken the initiative to find them to settle accounts. How dare these guys come to find me on their own initiative? You go and arrange some people now, and give me a copy of the information of all the members of the Dark Pirates. I want to take a closer look at how to deal with them. Quote. But unexpectedly, this group of guys became more and more rampant. He thought that these guys were capable, but it turned out that they were just a bunch of criminals who couldn't get on the stage. Waiting for Venerable Soul to bring back the members and materials of the Dark Pirates. Venerable Divine Soul took the initiative to put the member information of the Dark Pirates in 4.3, on the table in front of Monk. Monk didn't care too much. In Monk's view, the other party is just a clown, don't waste your mind. 0. Advertisement. As soon as the member information comes back, Monk will immediately start to encircle and suppress the Dark Pirates. In the past, there were also conflicts between the Ghost Gate Gang and the Dark Pirates, but it was just a small friction. If this does not wipe them out, it will be a bit inappropriate. Then he quickly returned to the front of Monk, but Monk reached out to pick it up. Then he bid farewell to Monk and left here. They didn't take any action against them, yet they still thought they were wrong, as if they were in vain. He didn't expect that the gang of Dark Pirates would dare to come and take the initiative to deliver it to their door. After Monk picked up the information about the members of the Dark Pirates brought by Venerable Soul, he began to read it carefully. Watching Venerable Soul leave, Monk also showed a sneer. After he took a look, he showed a disgusted expression. Hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul did not hesitate at all, stood up decisively and left here. Monk is already mentally prepared. Venerable Shenhun's work efficiency is also extremely high, he only spent half a day investigating. Advertisement. Chapter 523, How to Compensate. Advertisement. These guys got together and thought about those unrealistic ideas all day long. Either to destroy the naval headquarters, or to destroy the world government. But their strength does not allow them to do so, and they can only let them continue thinking so wildly. But just because these guys are thinking wildly there, the more they think, the more rampant they become. As if they really had that kind of strength, one by one became extremely disgusting. Monk, who had already learned the specific situation, did not stop at all, and gestured to the strong man of the Ghost Gate Gang next to him. Let the other party mobilize the troops, and I will take people to find the 10 people from the Dark Pirates to settle accounts. After receiving Monk's order, the strong man of the Gimmon Gang didn't hesitate at all, and started to act decisively. It only took a quarter of an hour, and many strong members of the Gimmon Gang gathered in front of Monk, waiting for Monk's order. Seeing that these people were ready, Monk waved his hand and led everyone out together. Together they rushed towards the place where the Dark Pirates were staying. When Monk led the Ghost Gang to surround the Dark Pirates. Advertisement. The pirates in the Dark Pirate group were able to react. They also ran out of the pirate ship in a hurry, and then looked around in horror. It's okay for those strong members of the Gimmon Gang to let them brag, but it's a little difficult to let them do some practical things. No matter how ruthless the bragging is, it is extremely fearful when facing reality. Whether it is the leader of the Dark Pirates or the leader of the Dark Pirates, they are all like frightened quails. Monk saw that the leaders of the Dark Pirates were cowering there, and he was a little helpless. After hearing what the other party said, Monk also shook his head, and then said to the leader of the Dark Pirates. After saying this, Monk looked at the leader of the Dark Pirates with burning eyes. You don't have to argue, I've already investigated the matter clearly. The leader of the Dark Pirates was also in a hurry, beckoning to the pirates next to him. Let them move all the treasures on his pirate ship, he wants to use money in exchange for his life. This made the leader of the Dark Pirates extremely embarrassed there, and could only play a one-man show. Advertisement. Then he looked up pitifully, saying that he didn't think so, and didn't dare to do it. Waiting for the answer from the leader of the Dark Pirates. This guy obviously wanted to cooperate with the Blackwater Ghost to deal with him in the past, so why is he as cowardly as a mouse now? And think about it again, how to compensate me next. Quote. I heard that you guys want to deal with me, tell me what is your specific plan. After hearing Monk's inquiry, the leader of the Dark Pirates froze for a moment. After saying this, Monk waited for the answer from the leader of the Dark Pirates. Monk also walked forward with doubts, and came to the leader of the Dark Pirates. Seeing the other party's appearance, Monk felt a little helpless after deliberating his words. But those pirates didn't seem to see the signal from the leader of the Dark Pirate group. I came here to ask you to give me an explanation, and you quickly tell me what you think. Said to the leader of the Dark Pirates in a cold voice. Advertisement. Chapter 520, The Cause and Effect of the Matter. Advertisement. Then he spoke to the leader of the Dark Pirates. You don't have to ask your men to move any belongings, I'm not very interested in gold treasures and the like. You don't think I'm greedy for money, do you? After saying this, Monk looked at the leader of the Dark Pirates with a half smile. The reason why Monk took money from other people before was mainly because his ghost gang needed money. It's not that he himself needs money, and the leader of the Dark Pirates is also looking at Monk suspiciously. According to the news he inquired from outside, Monk is a money fanatic. But why doesn't Monk admit it now? Could it be that the information I have investigated is inaccurate? With this kind of doubt in his heart, he didn't listen to the persuasion. Since his pirates don't obey orders, he can move it by himself. The leader of the Dark Pirates is also a devil fruit owner, and also has zone demon fruit power. Therefore, his physique is very strong, and it is extremely easy to carry his belongings. He also came to Monk with a treasure chest in one hand. Advertisement. When Monk saw the shining gold lying in the treasure chest, he fell in love with the Dark Pirates helplessly. The leader then spoke to the leader of the Dark Pirates. You won't just use these things to apologize to me. The leader of the Dark Pirates was stopped by Monk's words. I also thought secretly in my heart, isn't this enough? Do I have to go bankrupt? Monk saw the shocked expression on the leader of the Dark Pirates. He also said helplessly to the leader of the Dark Pirates. I've said it before, you don't need to use these gold treasures as an apology. I'm here to explain to you, not to ask for money. Quote. And even if I want property, I might as well kill you directly. Then the Dark Pirates became a subordinate department of the Ghost Gang. And you, Zhao Zhaohao, must be obedient and not betray me like a black water ghost. I can spare your life, but you must take the Dark Pirates and join my Ghost Gang. Advertisement. In that case, it is much better than you taking the initiative to hand it over to me. Quote. Like a frightened ostrich, he lowered his head, wishing he could bury his head in the soil. He is hesitating whether to merge the Dark Pirates into the Ghost Gate Gang. Then he spoke to the leader of the Dark Pirates. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul and Ben Bird King were stunned. Before, Monk said with certainty that he would kill the leader of the Dark Pirates. How did you get here and suddenly change your mind? If you can do this, I will spare your life. Quote. After hearing these words from the leader of the Dark Pirates, Monk thought carefully for a while. After a long talk, he was ready to tell the whole story after he told Monk all the ins and outs of the matter. The leader of the Dark Pirates was also extremely helpless. After saying this, Monk waited for an explanation from the leader of the Dark Pirates. Let the Dark Pirates become a subordinate department of the Ghost Gate Gang. But there is no way. Monk is their leader. They listen to what Monk says, and they cannot refute it at all. After a long time of consideration, Monk also raised his head and looked at the leader of the Dark Pirates with a tense face. Advertisement. Chapter 525 Split. Advertisement. The Thunder team is only responsible for solving problems and bringing order to S.H.I.E.L.D. and the government. When they fought the Dark Emperor, the fight ended on Scott's side, and the mutants who fell under him were much luckier than Monk and the others who just passed out. After Monk teleported to where the plane was parked, they disappeared into the launch base area together. Suddenly, several people appeared, and Nick Friggin, who was looking towards the base, was stunned. When he saw clearly that it was Monk and others, he said excitedly, "Great, you are so great. If given the chance, he will also organize a strong team." Monk yawned and said, "Go back to the house, I'm a little sleepy." Everyone nodded, also looking tired. Nick Fury. Guys, give me a reaction. I'm so embarrassed. Everyone raised their hands and lazily shouted, "Yo ho ho." Nick Fury nods to crowd, "Thank you for the show." As soon as the words fell, all the people gathered got into the plane. After the plane took off, Rami LeBeau called Nick Fury to the cockpit, gave him some basic guidance, and then handed over the plane to Nick Fury. Nick Fury stunned and shouted at Remy LeBeau, "I haven't learned it yet. What if the plane crashes? Believe in yourself. Come on." Remy LeBeau made an encouraging gesture and said, "If we crash, there will be Monk to save us, but not you. After all, you and him tut." Remy LeBeau shook his head, yawned and walked out of the 090 cockpit. Nick Fury narrowed his eyes. Hiss. Breathing cold air. This is going to hurt. Most likely the plane crashed and Monk fell. At this time, he heard cheers from the plane cabin, as if several people were celebrating. Nick Fury looked at the controls of the plane and sighed silently. After all, he did it all by himself. He silently took out a bear-shaped biscuit from his pocket and stuffed it into his mouth. Meanwhile, as soon as Monk and his companions left, communication between the launch base and the outside world was restored, and the White House rejoiced at the news that the crisis was over. But what happened? Who defeated the Dark Emperor? How did they know? After the applause, the president couldn't help asking a question. Advertisement. The people who gathered together looked at each other in blank dismay. They do not know. What the hell was that? S.H.I.E.L.D. called them and explained the situation. After learning that S.H.I.E.L.D. discovered Hyda's conspiracy and sent a special team. Because the crisis situation was resolved in time. As for the discovery of Hades' conspiracy a few hours ago, but did not notify the launch base and the White House, the people from S.H.I.E.L.D. did not say anything. Hang up the phone. I5 Carter saw Howard looked at her in surprise, and gently fiddled with his hair. She smiled and asked Smilingskid, "Why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me like that? I thought you were going to tell them what happened." "Don't be kidding." Peggy Carter smiled and sat down on the sofa beside her, took out a cigarette, lit it, and carefully put it in her mouth. Crimson's mouth opened slightly, and the smoke escaped from her mouth. Saying, "Don't you know what these virtues are? If I say them all, not only will it waste my time and saliva, it will also get them a scolding meal. Importantly, how could they be polite enough to approve our new application for funding?" By narrowing her eyes playfully at Howard, she grinned. All in all, things worked out pretty well, and the Dark Emperor was wiped out. Pause. Flicker of desperation on the face. Another puff. Said, "They may be really powerful, if such an order exists." Howard walked up to Peggy Carter, put his hand out of the other's mouth and said, "I don't know why, I don't know what's going to happen. I know he won't like you smoking. Putting out the cigarette, he said, smoking less is not good for your health. Peggy Carter nodded, stood up and said to Howard, let's go have a drink and celebrate. Ha, Howard said, throwing up his hands, celebrate old man. Peggy Carter smiled, took Howard's hand, and the two walked away quickly. Compared with the originally beaming party, Hellfire has become a mess at this time. The failure of the plan and the loss of contact with Heidi and his party kept them in a state of confusion. Soon, they received a message. Everyone who entered the base this time was either captured or Baj killed. As for Heidi, he was also killed by the masked man. When Hellfire heard the news, everyone was taken aback and panicked. Heidi, the leader of Hellfire, a powerful and invincible person in their eyes, was killed like this. What happens when he dies? The Hellfire mutants were discouraged, panicked, even terrified. At this moment, the White Queen Emma and the Black Queen Serenagalio stood up, and they announced that they would continue to lead Hellfire, shelter them, lead them to a new life, and continue to fight for the future of mutants. But not together, but against each other. Thereupon, a fight broke out between them, which finally stopped because of fear of each other's strength. Her two Terra Seconds already hold different philosophies, and even the other mutants in Hellfire aren't like-minded. Advertisement. Thus, the Hellfire inevitably disintegrated. Some mutants left Hellfire, and the rest chose a leader, either the White Queen or the Black Queen. In the end, the Black Queen stayed in Las Vegas with her T followers, while the White Queen led her T followers away quietly. Overnight, the Hellfire Club officially split. On the other hand, Monk and his party also returned to New York. As for Hank Pym, he didn't want to waste time, or even meet the Shield, when he jumped off the plane as it flew over San Francisco. As for how to land, Monk and the others are not worried. After all, Hank Pym can have an army of ants. Finally, at dawn, Monk and his party landed at the airport. What are your plans? Monk looked at the other three and asked curiously. Scott thought for a while and said, I plan to start from here, and then return to my old place. He smiled and said, come to Alaska when you have time. Monk nodded, looking at Logan and Remy Repo. Showing off the black bracelet on his wrist, Romelabo said, they promised to get rid of this thing for me when it was over. Congratulations. Hey, Romelbo put his arms around Logan and said with a smile, Logan, after I get this thing off, let's go on a trip together, anyway, you have nothing else to do. Plug-in application. A perfect copy of the old version of Book Chaser, which can replace the original version. Ah, Logan grinned, but didn't refuse. When all three looked at Monk, Monk said, I'm going home, the kids are still waiting. This sentence immediately aroused a wave of envious eyes. Okay guys, bye. After several people left contact information with each other, Monk disappeared using instant teleportation. The three of Logan also said goodbye and walked in different directions. Looking at the backs of the three of them, Nick Fury was stunned. Shikido, why doesn't anyone ask me where I'm going? Hey, Fury. At this time, Remibo suddenly turned around and shouted. Nick Fury looked around happily. Take me and Logan to S.H.I.E.L.D., I think you have nothing to do. Advertisement. Chapter 526, Encrypted Channel. Advertisement. Singji, Sunny, Ali Straight and Mel Little yawned as they descended the stairs. Today is Sunday. After having a hearty breakfast, they will happily go to school. Suddenly, a familiar scent came from the nose. The two immediately came back to their senses and looked at each other. This. Ellie couldn't be happier. Ella nodded, called Papa, and rushed into the kitchen. When they saw Myji holding the plate, they were so excited that tears almost came out of their eyes. Dad. Both of them shouted and hugged Myji. Myji lifted the plate in Yang's hand and looked at it with a smile. Have we not seen each other in the past 2 days? Should we be so worried? Dad, you don't understand. He has been righted in the past 2 days. Ahem. A slight cough sounded behind the two of them. They tensed up, and squeezed out a smile. Straighten up, he lost weight to take care of us. Yeah, McStilton looked straight. Gigi pulled the plate in my Zidang's hand and straight to Li Ji said. Serve your breakfast, go out quickly, I will take it to school after eating. Dad just came back today to deliver breakfast to you, he really very tired. Both of them nodded, looked at their breakfast plates, and wiped the tears of happiness from their mouths. Great, finally eat directly without eating fruit. The two even had the urge to give each other high fives and cheer each other up. Just then they saw Stratton turn his head and look at them with a dangerous red gleam in his blue eyes. The two were startled, and hurriedly picked up the plate and walked out. Naoto Mai shook his head with a smile, took off his apron and put it aside, and had a hasty breakfast with the three of them. After the children went to school, Naoto Mai disposed of the virus bomb in Tomoyo's pocket and went upstairs to rest. This time, the Heidi incident caused a great uproar, and a group of people in the west of the Change Committee were implicated again, and people became more and more wary and suspicious of the Change Committee. However, this has nothing to do with McDonald, who is back to his normal life. Do housework, take care of children every day, occasionally go to school or go to the bar to have fun, meet new friends, improve understanding, but do not interfere with each other, life is easy and fun. Time flies, and the new year is coming. Straight Straight is 14 years old, Ear Little and Ellie Straight are 10 years old each. I'm going to Super B. Which of you will go with me? Myji stood at the door of the living room, looked at Erji and Mira who were sitting on the sofa, and asked in a low voice. Advertisement. The two stared at the TV with their heads in their hands, and asked listlessly, "Shall we watch TV?" Not good. Seeing that the two were so engrossed, Mai shook her head and walked out of the room with a smile. Haha, this guy is so stupid. Ali staring straight at the TV, smiling mockingly. I narrowed my eyes slightly and looked directly at Ellie, as if to say, "Stupid. Are you still alive?" Huh, Ellie hummed in an irritable voice. "Change the show. I won't watch it." "Did you say that?" He walked over to the TV signal box. "No way. I want to see. I'm a little anxious." They continued to drive forward, competing for the signal box. Click. TV shows. Jump, back and forth. Suddenly, a picture unsuitable for children appeared on the TV screen. "Stop." Ellie screams. I startle. He stays in place like a marionette. What's the matter? You, look. Ellie Strutter's voice visibly trembled, as if the subject had been stimulated by some kind. I stared at the TV, my face flushed instantly. Also, encryption frequency. What's going on? He was shocked. Ellie got excited directly. Maybe we're blind, that's exactly right. The two looked at each other, blushing. Then, they watched TV silently. At that moment, when both of them were concentrating on what seemed to be a program, Nala adjusted her earphones, took the player and went downstairs, walked unsteadily to the counter, and walked under the sun. Nala Ra turned and looked at him with wide eyes. He saw Eli Straight and Mel Little standing in front of the TV like puppets, holding the signal box, and his eyes widened, not because of their movements, but it's because of what's playing on the TV. Encryption frequency. He let out a scream, and without alarming the two of them, he slipped his body onto the sofa, turned on his supervision and looked around, and lay down on his own without seeing McNeil's base. For a moment, there was only the sound of a frantically beating heart in the entire room. After more than half an hour, Ji Laji looked puzzled and Yaren called out, "Hurry up, Dad is here." As soon as the words were finished, Myrtle and Araneo suddenly turned around. Out of habit, Myrtle stuffed the box containing the telegram signal into Araneo's hand. 0 for flowers, 0. Ah, they both cried out when they saw the sofa sitting upright behind them. Advertisement. What, when did you come? Ellie stammered and looked at Now Straight. Nala Gigi made a face in embarrassment, stared and said, "I think it was when I watched it just now." He glanced at the TV and saw that the screen had moved back due to the actions of the two people, and he was a little thankful that he didn't remind them just now. "Why are you silent?" Mel was suffering from tightness in his chest. Seeing the moment when he straightened up, he felt his heart jumping in his throat. He straightened his face without changing his expression. "I just want to taste your taste often." Ellie straightened up and cried, "Don't tell Zhongza." 0. He straightened up and smiled back. "I'm a bit skeptical of Shira's hit confirmation and, you want to see for yourself. Quote question mark. How can this be? I can see if you're lying." Mel narrowed his eyes slightly, Eri straightened up and hurriedly followed. Seeing that both of them were looking at him, Zila coughed lightly, and said tremblingly, "Don't worry, I won't tell Dad." After hearing this, the three of them looked at each other tacitly. In the next second, Nala Gigi quickly ran upstairs, and Yiliji and Elidal went to the sofa in the opposite direction. Everything is exactly as it was before Mina left. Mai Ji walked in with daily necessities, turned his head and saw that Mai Xiaoxiao and Eli Ji were still obediently watching TV on the sofa, which made him a little strange. So obedient today, didn't fight. What's for dinner tonight? Whatever. Two smiling faces. Is it that good? Mai immediately looked at the two suspiciously and asked, "Do you have any questions?" Both shook their heads and smiled kindly at Mai Do. Mai directed them to look suspiciously, turned and walked towards the kitchen. For dinner, the three little guys ate very quickly and behaved very obediently. They didn't fight at the dinner table, didn't fight over the meal, and even clasped each other's bowls and chopsticks, which made Maisie panic. After a hasty dinner, the three of them rushed upstairs, washed their faces and went to bed. Maisie was a little dumbfounded. These three people are too docile tonight, right? Something is wrong. He looked at the door force of the three of them with some concern. Advertisement. Chapter 527 Murder Scene. Advertisement. Until bedtime, Mai Ji didn't find a chance to talk to any of the three children. In his opinion, the three of them today are always somewhat unusual. Sitting at the table in the bedroom, Mai Ji laid out more than 100 rows of stone tablets. Speaking of decks, Maisie's latest stone decks are character-themed decks, except for some common decks that have already been made. Mai Ji spent 2 hours compiling a new set of character cards, and then summoned the Eternal Cigarette Box with spiritual power, took out the old card set, and put the new card set into it. Nearly a third of the 54 cards in the Eternal Cigarette pack were replaced by his character deck. Character decks take longer to craft than item decks. Over the years, his target deck has gotten really thick. However, we need to clean up the deck and use up the cards with their own levels first. His current ability level, 290, is LV3, considering the level of the card is what he called LVB. This stone creates an augmented item. The increase in ability level not only expands Yamato's range, but also greatly increases the power of the cards created by his stones. The same card group, especially its ability card group, even if it is the same entrusted ability, the Yuka made by stone will be more useful and powerful than the past when it comes with its own level. For example, a fire-style Great Fireball can break the ground when it is stuck at LV2 level, but it is definitely not as powerful as the final level production. As far as the object is concerned, the duration of journey to the West's current dimension cancellation is getting longer and longer. In short, the higher the ability level, the stronger the power and durability of the card. The purpose of the VD card is to consume the power of comprehension. Although each card is very small, after so many years, his card group is getting bigger and bigger. This kind of efficiency and strength that accumulates and consumes every day is very objective. Because of this, his ability level was upgraded to LV3 when the exchange was launched today. When using high-level cards, the cards of the level of the used card should be used. But looking at Kume in his mind, Mai straightened up and sighed. This is really troublesome. Mai Xiaoji turned off the desk lamp, ready to get up and go to bed. Several sharp sounds sounded, and a finger-sized hole appeared on the wall in front of Mai Ji. Are there any enemies? Sniper. Advertisement. Wu Juren's eyes narrowed, and a few cards appeared in his hand instantly. While he was putting on the protective cover, he could scan the cards and use them. But in the next second, his face opened from the corner of his eyes, twitching wildly, and in the end, his face, which had lost the ability to control the stone, completely turned into a grimace. No enemies. Did Baby and L go straight to sleep? And Streeter panicked. He had an embarrassed look on his face. Did he pull up his pants? McStreet stood up, looked at the hole in the wall, and was silent. He hit the wall twice with a hammer. Then, he sat back on the chair, pondered for a few minutes, and finally decided to talk to Gigi. As a father, he feels that he has the responsibility to guide his children to popularize the knowledge of the past. Knocking on Naoi's door, McNair's voice is very loud. Naoi. Father wants to talk to you. Quote. I am asleep. Naoi sounded a little flustered. McNeil straightened the corners of his eyes, pushed open the door and walked in, and at the same time opened the door, he invited the straightened masked head buried in the quilt. Seeing Naora straight in such a mess, Wu Juren, who was still a little embarrassed, couldn't help laughing. Looking at the hole in the wall, Maiji closed the door. Mira. Let's talk about her, about the hole. I don't know the quantity. Mina smiled slightly. He said. You've grown up, haven't you? It's normal for a man, Daddy won't blame you. Na Laji remained silent, only showing a pair of eyes looking at Maiji. Maiji coughed lightly, and said on the forehead, don't pursue desires too much, it's not good for Shizi's health. Also, train your strength well, I don't want your future date to become a murder scene. As soon as the words fell, Mai straightened up, suppressed her laughter, and quickly left the room, closing the door behind her. Hearing a light knock on the door, Nala straightened up and let out a long sigh. So embarrassing, he wanted to burn the ground with his heat vision. But what about the murder scene? An image flashed involuntarily in her mind. Nala moaned and straightened up, covering herself with the blanket again. Blame me and Ellie, if they hadn't played the encrypted frequency this afternoon, this would not have happened today. He roared to himself and went to bed in embarrassment. Boom. Advertisement. Suddenly a hole appeared in the bed. Nala straightened up, lay on her back on the bed, moved to the west, and blocked the hole with her fist. Go to sleep, there is no shame in sleeping tonight. But the reality was that Street didn't even dare to look at Maijia for the whole of the next day. This situation lasted for 3 days, and the incident gradually disappeared, and she returned to her normal life directly, only daring to look directly at her cousin. In this regard, Mai Dao said he didn't care. After all, the school will also advise parents to popularize her knowledge to their children, and when the children reach a certain age, they will also get to know her at school. Life goes on as it always has, and even though it's smooth, it's a lot like a different kind of life. And from the day when the encryption frequency was unlocked for some reason, Yi Lizzie and I slowly began to compete for the TV signal box, trying to reproduce the scene of the year. After dozens of attempts but failed, we slowly gave up on this one day. Bell looked at several people angrily, and said sightingly, you nerds. The football was firmly caught by him. The bronze-skinned girl walked up to Nalaji and sat down, looking at her curiously. Boom. Today, at this time, the ball on the field was accidentally kicked by a boy, and flew in their direction, stretching straight. In the girl's eyes, panic was instantly replaced by surprise. The boys on the field laughed loudly, and their words were full of ridicule. Belle was a little disappointed, she also wanted to see how Nala, Benz performed on the court. Nala adjusted the earphones, nodded politely to the girl, and said solemnly, Bailey. Well, the boys were taken aback for a moment, then Anne laughed out loud, hissed everywhere, chattered and made obscene gestures towards Straight. Hey, new transfer student, stay away from that nerd, or you will be infected. At this moment, straightness seemed to be shining in her eyes. He shook his head straight. 3.2. Straighten up, what are you doing here alone? Belle looked into the straight blue eyes, blushed slightly, and froze for a moment. Aren't you going to play football? It can be seen that you like it very much. Order the school. Putting on the earphones, Nala sat on the playground and looked at the boys sweating profusely on the playground. Nala's eyes were calm, with a trace of longing that could not be concealed. Advertisement. Chapter 528. What did you say? Advertisement. Looking at the half-smile face, Belle gasped and said, quick. Straighten up, talk. Straight scowled. He has seen this kind of thing a lot, and he has long been used to it. But looking at the silent straightening machine, the anger in the girl's eyes was replaced by panic. Why did not you speak? If it were someone else, he would have revenged long ago. You don't know how to measure, do you? He's a sissy. Ha ha ha, softball, softball, hush. Belle listened to these taunts, and the horror in her eyes was replaced by disgust and disbelief. Why don't you answer? Is it really difficult to distinguish tenderness? Did she turn around and leave? He straightened up, put on his headphones, casually tossed the ball to his feet, stood up and left the field. Haha, he's softening his heart. His father must also be a soft bone, raising such a useless thing. Straightening her legs, Nala turned around and looked at the boy who had just spoken. The boy gave Straiten a mocking look, then made a gesture with his hand, and said, "Come on, Gunlu, kick the ball for me." Good boy. Straightening up, Stella Ching took a deep breath, turned the music up to high volume, and walked towards the ball. Seeing this scene, Sichuan covered Ten's mouth in surprise and disgust. She never looked directly at Zichi. As soon as she transferred here, she noticed Zila Zishang's unique expression since the morning, but she didn't expect Zila Zishang to be such a useless person. Zila looked at the boy mockingly, stood in front of the football, and raised his legs. Well, the black and white football flew past the boy's eyes with a gust of wind, and then disappeared in a lost direction. Cold sweat broke out on the boy's forehead, and he looked at Naoto in horror, while the others also looked at Naoto in shock. If the football hits them in the face, it's a terrible blow. Just thinking about it, the boys shivered involuntarily. Ha, ha 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 ha. Didn't you play well? I thought you were good. Give us back the ball. The boy swallowed, Guago smiled mockingly, and straightened up. He straightened his back and took a flat step. What do you want to do? The boy puffed up his chest and stared at Zili, and the others walked over and surrounded Zili. What did you say? Advertisement. Nala took off the earphone straight away, looked at the interlocutor and asked softly. The boy looked at the interlocutor, and glared at him with a trembling corner of his mouth. I said you were soft-hearted. Nala shook her head and was stunned. No, what did you say about my father just now? A soft son raised by a soft father, haha. Naolaji picked up the earphones, the rock music in her ears became more and more intense, more and more violent. It seemed that she was about to explode, but Naolaji became calmer and calmer, her blue eyes were like frozen of the lake. And then, when everyone was unexpected, he raised his hand. Snapped. Crisp. The talking boy hit Nala directly and fell to the ground immediately. His head didn't explode, and he didn't pass out. He was just in a daze, his head buzzing. How dare you hit me? The boy looked at Stratton angrily, trying to stand up. But his legs were a little weak. Straightened up and nodded. Really? I hit you. That's it. The boy growled angrily. Seeing this scene, the boy who was stiffened by Naolajiji's slap clenched his fists and rushed towards Naolajiji. Straighten your arms. Snapped, snapped, snapped. One person with one slap, and the stone behind him is very firm and flat, even hiding murderous intentions. Every slap that escapes from the force can indeed cover at least a millimeter. A few seconds later, Zila fell on his back. They all covered their right faces in unison and looked at Zila in horror, as if they had seen a devil. Some even burst into tears because of fear. Have you been showing mercy to a few people? Mira, does it hurt? The group of boys quickly nodded in agreement. Straight and light. It hurts. This day, I'm going to cry. Having said that, he raised his hand again. Seeing this scene, the boys cried out in fright. Nala straightened her arms, looked at the other people on the playground who had already stared blankly, then turned to look at Belle who was not far away from her, who was already staring blankly. Hey, Belle, you should go to the teacher. Quote. Belle led King Bai, turned around and ran towards Today. On the football field, the fallen companion standing quietly and sitting or lying around screaming in pain, the scene is impressive. Seeing this scene, Zila Ji muttered to himself. In the future, no one will say such unnecessary words, right? He looked around at the crowd who were shouting but did not dare to leave their seats, and raised his hands 5 times. These kids quickly shut up. Advertisement. Straightened up, looked softly and said, do you remember? Everyone nodded. The teacher came in, what do you want to say? Straight said lightly, let's play football today. Fall down. Kick yourself. Straighten and nod. He just didn't want to know them right away, after all, they were just some 13 or 14-year-old children. But he could talk about him, his father couldn't. His father told him that benevolence is destiny and benevolence is choice. When his kindness is trampled on, when his kindness is mistaken for weakness and becomes excessive, on this day, he may often rebel against his kindness and show his fist. But the power of the fist must be mastered. After a while, the teacher came in. When he asked why, the children who were startled by straightening their fists all gave their reasons, but today none of the children said that they were startled by straightening their fists. The teacher had to call them to the strong room. But he said, absolutely should not, these children dare not admit that they did it straight up. The scene of 637 slapping someone straight up really scared them. In the end, the issue had to be left alone. After letting the children go, the teacher looked at the crowd running towards the base, sighed, and shook his head. Stand up. The teacher turned to look at Naoi, and said with concern, if they want to trouble you in the future, you can tell the teacher. Ziba straightened up, nodded, and was taken aback. Thank you, teacher. As soon as the voice fell, he straightened up, turned and left. Tell the teacher. The teacher will definitely call the parents, and they will be the ones calling. Just shrugged. After school, Nala straightened up, got on her bicycle and headed home. What happened today is not important to him, because he has encountered it many times over the years and has long been used to it. Suddenly, he stopped the car and looked into the alley near the school gate. There were a few tall, strong men who looked like high school students, and they were surrounding two boys with obvious slap marks on their faces, pushing them vigorously. Straighten had a keen sense of hearing and heard them grabbing money. Nala straightened the car, picked up a few stones from the side of the road, controlled her strength, and threw them at the big boy's feet without anyone noticing. With a scream, the older children fell to the ground clutching their feet, while the two robbed boys looked around in panic, turned and ran. Straightening up, Nala looked at the backs of the two of them, smiled weakly, and rode on her bicycle towards home. Advertisement. Chapter 529 Adventure. Advertisement. From winter to spring, the three members of the Clark family grew up another year. Clark has gone to junior high school, and Alex has both graduated from elementary school. What? Spring break. Monk looked at the happy Charles and Eric, raised his eyebrows, put down the water glass in his hand, and asked, "Where are you going?" New York. The two were a little puzzled. They thought they could go to a farther place, some magic. This is a kind of trip to primary school memories before graduation. Monk nodded and said, "Yeah, but no problem." The two men nodded happily, greeted each other, then held out their hands to Monk and said, "Money." Monk nodded to the two with a smile, took out his wallet, took out some money and handed them to them. Going to play for a few days. The two readily accepted and said, 3 days. Such a long time. Monk looked a little surprised, but then he grinned and said calmly, "It's great, I can finally spend a few days in peace." Charles. "I'm going to miss you, Dad." Monk poked Charles on the head and said, "Just don't get me in trouble." Eric said seriously, "I'll watch Charles." Monk stroked Eric's head and said, "When are we leaving?" "Tomorrow." "Yes, leave early tomorrow morning. Is your luggage packed?" "We'll pack everything right away." The two shouted happily and ran upstairs. Looking at the backs of the two, Monk smiled and shook his head. Early in the morning, Charles and Eric hurried to school. Today, they will go to New York. Although they have been to these places many times and all the places they should go, they are still very happy this spring outing. After all, there is no need to go to class. On a school bus. Charles and Eric sat together, talking in low voices, sleeping until the car started. "Hey Eric, can you switch seats with me?" At this time, a blonde girl walked up to Eric who was standing in the aisle, asked politely in a low voice, and kept her eyes on Charles. Eric glanced at him and said without hesitation, "No, no." Advertisement. The girl pouted and said, "Come on. I want to sit with Charles." After hearing this, Charles snorted and said happily, "Of course, Miriam." As he spoke, he pushed Eric and whispered in his ear, "Hurry up." Eric looked at Charles in despair, and walked up to the seat of Miriam's girlfriend indignantly. Charles smiled triumphantly, stood up and gave up his seat by the window. He said, "Sit inside. You can enjoy the scenery." The girl looked at Charles happily and said, "You're such a gentleman." Charles looked up. "I always have been." Watching the laughing couple, Eric rolled his eyes and said, "It stinks." "So, Eric, want a snack?" Just now, the curly-haired girl sitting next to Eric carefully opened her backpack. Eric looked away and said coldly, "Thank you, thank you." The girl cautiously looked in Eric's direction. A blush appeared on her face. Still cold. A little while later, the bus is refueled, the car starts, and it's headed for New York. Arriving in New York, a group of people came to the hotel and checked in. Checked luggage. Head to the attractions now. There are only 3 days of free time, so the itinerary is very tight. After seeing a few sights, the day passed quickly, but it was a bit boring for Charles and Eric. Since they are going places they have been to before, nothing surprises them. However, when night fell and the children went back to their room to rest after dinner, Charles and Eric, who lived in the same room, crept over humming a song. "What do you want to do?" Eric looked at Charles. Charles rolled his eyes and said, "What do you want?" "I told Dad I'd take care of you." After a moment of silence, Charles said, "Then let's go together." Eric smiled coldly and said, "It's not together, I'm looking at you." Charles said at a loss, "Then you follow him." After all, he quickly dressed, frowned, and quickly checked the surrounding environment with his abilities, and found that those who should be sleeping had already fallen asleep, and those who were awake also used their abilities to make them fall asleep, and then opened the door went out of the doctor. Eric quickly chased him out. It was already midnight, and even in such a bustling city, it was quiet at this time. Walking in the dim light, Charles looked at the deserted streets and hailed a taxi outside the hotel. Eric hurriedly followed Charles, and Charles didn't say a word. After Charles told the location, the taxi drove to the destination. "What are you going to do?" Advertisement. Seeing Charles's definite rather than whimsical expression, Eric couldn't help asking. Charles pointed to his forehead, using his ability to connect his consciousness with Eric's. "I'm going to save the world." Save. The two had a mental exchange. "Remember those flower sellers we saw outside the Empire State Building this afternoon?" Eric was impressed with those kids. The kids were younger than he and Charles, shabby and thin. Holding flowers in their hands, they stopped couples walking towards the Empire State Building, hugged men's legs, and begged them to buy a bouquet of flowers for their girlfriends. The flowers are beautiful, but the price is more than 10 times that of ordinary bouquets. Therefore, when these children are entangled with each other, they often meet some people who are not wrong, and occasionally even some flashy people, and they will inevitably be pushed and beaten. These kids didn't come to sell flowers because their families were poor, they didn't just hang out, they were forced to come to sell flowers. When Charles sees these kids, out of curiosity, he tests them with superpowers, and he sees some really bad pictures. Eric opened his mouth wide in surprise. Eric exclaimed. Do you know where that person is? He saw all this information in the mind of a kid who seemed to be tasked with collecting money earned by other kids every day and handing it to the man's spear. But these children can only starve and suffer from cold. Mind control. Mutant. 53. Only by eliminating the source can these children be truly saved. Eric asked. How many children are there? It should be a similar ability. Charles nodded. No. Charles shook his head, his voice was cold. I want to find the B*************** D and kill him. Get the best, live your best life. He added in his mind. Charles replied. He spends all the money these kids earn every day, on the best food and the best housing. Charles pressed his forehead, recalling the images in these children's minds, and said, after they are taken away by that person, they will press that person's hand on their head, and then a picture of a rose will appear on their body, good Zhao case, and the child will obey that person's orders. Then let's find these children now and use your ability to help them. Then he heard Charles say, if I remember correctly, whoever made these images is a mutant. Advertisement. Chapter 530th Complaint. Advertisement. 53. Eric gasped for breath. This is not a small sum, and the money earned every day is countless. Although he didn't know how much money these children would leave, and he didn't know what the original price of these flowers was, he knew that it was definitely a lot of money. He vowed to recite the multiplication formula his father taught him when he was a child. Both of them were silent, feeling a little heavy. They have seen mutants being hunted down before, but this time they saw mutants hurting others. So, whether this group of people is good or bad. Both sighed silently, remembering what Monk had said to them. The two paid the money, got out of the car, and looked at the endless luxury hotel in front of them, feeling a little heavy. The scum lives in such a nice place, but the children are suffering. Eric suddenly took Charles's hand and said, wait, why don't we call Dad and let him sort it out? Is it necessary to bother Dad with such a trivial matter? Charles narrowed his eyes contemptuously, and then said, did you forget how we wiped out criminals together on Alcatraz? Don't you feel like a super agent? Quote. Eric thought about 530 for a while, and said enthusiastically, come on. Get rid of that B************ D. Naked. At this time, with the screeching sound of tires, a bright yellow sports car came down not far from them. Both stood up and turned their heads to look. I saw a man wearing night sunglasses, a neat suit, and smelling of wrapping paper coming towards them from the car, walked to the other side of the car, opened the car door, and a blonde woman with a good figure and a charming face came out of the car. Get out of the car. They kissed like no one else was there, and after the man waved to the doorman and handed over the key, the two walked towards the hotel like conjoined twins. Charles and Eric frowned. He always felt that he had seen this unfriendly man in front of him somewhere. The man gently pushed the woman away puzzled, and turned to look at Charles and his wife. Looking at these two somewhat familiar and unpleasant faces, his brows were tightly knit together, and his mind was thinking quickly. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind. He took off his sunglasses, and exclaimed to the two of them, it's you two brats. Eric and Charles looked at each other, stunned. Then they screamed. You want food. Milk delivery. Tony Stark. What's the use? Advertisement. Of course, the two little ghosts are still just as annoying. Laughing out loud, looking at the facial expressions of the three, slender. The 6-foot-tall blonde couldn't help laughing. Tony Stark let go of the woman's hand, walked up to Charles and Eric, and looked down at them. Tisk, are you still outside at this late hour? Could it be that he ran away from home? Or was he kicked out of the house by an adult? Charles and Eric looked at Tony with fake eyes. Tony laughed. He took out his wallet, took out the money and threw it to these two people. He said, go home. Obviously trying to help, but the attitude is annoying. Charles and Eric look at each other. Charles takes the money and Eric punches Tony in the knee. Ah! Tony yelped in pain and twisted his body involuntarily. Charles stuffed the money into Tony's skirt and turned to Tony who was wearing a pain mask. He said contemptuously, Uncle, with this money, you can buy milk. Talking. Under Tony's angry eyes, the two rushed into the hotel. Seeing this scene, the tall woman on the side covered her mouth in surprise, hurried to Tony. And said, are you all right, Mr. Stark? It's okay. Tony squeezed his shoes, took a breath and said, I'm tying my shoes. The woman looks at Tony's boots. Where are your laces? Where are your shoelaces? Of course, he wouldn't be so stupid as to expose his own scavenger. He picked up Tony, and the two staggered towards the hotel. That shameless uncle treats us like beggars. But he came out really big. Wider A***. Eric snorted softly. Enough. Let's go find that B*********** D. Charles said, let go of his superpowers, and began to look for targets. Mutants and humans, when he perceives them telepathically, evoke different sensations in his perception, so it is easy for him to target. However, he had an easier option. Advertisement. He went straight to the front desk and used his superpowers to do a little favor to the girl behind the counter. Taking the elevator to the 16th floor, they found each other's rooms. 1609. Seeing the room number, the eyes of the two lit up. Eric took a deep breath and said, "Are you ready?" "No, no." Charles was a little nervous. Eric looked at Charles, gasped and said, "Touch, there are a few people over there, and see what those people are doing." Charles nodded, stretched out his finger and nodded his forehead. "Two, a man and a woman, they are hugging. Then control the target." Before Eric finished speaking, Charles suddenly shifted his gaze and said, he recognized it. The target's name is Walker, and they suspected that the other party's abilities were related to superpowers, and now it seems that this is the case. As soon as Charles tried to control him, he was discovered. However, there is still a gap in their abilities. Although Charles was discovered, he still managed to control the other party. At this time, Charles suddenly said, "Hurry up. That woman is also a mutant, and she is trying to escape with him." Raising his head, Eric stretched out his hand and pushed open the door, which opened silently, and the two walked in. Seeing the woman who was already running to the balcony with Walker on her back, Eric snorted softly, squeezed his palm, and the metal in the room flew out again, and stopped in front of the woman who was staring at him in horror, making her involuntarily step back. She turned around and looked at the two Eric standing at the door, a look of surprise flashed in her eyes, and then she breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that they were just two children. Throwing Walker on the bed, the tattooed woman in her underwear licked her tongue and said, "Little brothers, it's not good to break into someone's house without their consent." As soon as the words fell, the tattoo on her back slowly moved as if it was alive, and turned into a huge tiger and landed on the ground. At the same time, several lion majesty also fell from the woman's hand. Charles looked at him uneasily, took a step back, and said to Eric, "Let's talk about you." Eric snorted softly, waved his hand, and the door slammed shut behind him, rattling metal in the room. At this time, Tony walked into the room with a blonde woman in his arms, stopped at the door of his room, looked at room 1609 with a strange expression and said, "What a big commotion." The woman climbed on top of Tony, bit his ear and said, "Come on, Mr. Stark." He couldn't wait any longer. Advertisement.